And welcome to our December 8th Board of County Commission meeting. We are going to start this morning off with an invocation from Matt Pilot, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to invite Bob Yago from the hall, Brian VFW 10132, to follow the invocation with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning. Let's pray together. God, before we go to the business of Martin County, we want to do the business of coming before you. Psalm 95 says, "Come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our God, our Maker." And this Christmas season, before we get to the hustle and bustle of our jobs and our work and all of the issues that we have to work through, we want to come and worship you because you came at Christmas. You came in a dark time in the world to bring light, to bring hope, to bring life to all who would accept you. And so we ask your blessing in this meeting, in this month, in our wonderful Martin County, your blessing and your hope and your protection. We want to thank you for the protection over Martin County, for protecting our schools and our families and our business and our law enforcement. And Lord, I thank you for these great leaders, these county commissioners who faithfully serve year after year. I pray a blessing on their families, on their businesses. Give us wisdom, give us unity, give us family and community. And I just pray, Lord, that you would just show us the hope that you have in Jesus. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Today's agenda, we have one additional item, Consent 11, Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity Renewals. We have two voting conflicts, consent number 1 and consent number 7. We have one consent pull, consent number 7. With that, I will entertain motions, but to separate out consent 1 and 7.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would move the agenda less the polls of consent 1 and 7.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith and seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, let's now take consent. We'll do that later.
One.
So consent 1 was separated out, so I'll entertain a motion to take that separately, and I will just be recusing myself because that one pertains to Ferrera, for which I'm an employee, and although they were not awarded that bid, I will recuse myself.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would move consent item number 1.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion and abstain. Motion passes 4-0 with myself abstaining. Okay. We are going to move on now to, please bear with me for my first day on the job. We have public comment. No, we're going to do presentations of proclamations and presentations. So Laura Beaupre is going to present those.
Good morning, Commissioners. The first proclamation we have today is declaring Farm City Week in Martin County, Florida. Florida farmers and ranchers help feed the world and rely on essential partnerships to supply, sell, and deliver products to consumers across Florida and around the globe. November 18th through 25th was Farm City Week, and although this is a belated recognition, residents are encouraged to acknowledge and appreciate all those who provide the amazing abundance of agricultural products that we all enjoy. And here to accept, if he came in, we have David Hafner, who's president of the Martin County Farm Bureau. Oh, there he is.
David Hafner's here. How about that?
Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners. Appreciate the proclamation. Although, like you said, Farm City Week has passed, it really is a celebration we can do all year long. Farm City Week celebrates the relationship between farmers and consumers, everything along the way, including transportation, farm workers, packing houses. I mean, it's a huge industry, and something that's really important here in Florida is our second largest economy driver. I appreciate you guys declaring this proclamation today, and thank you very much.
Thanks. Our next proclamation is declaring Bible Reading Week in Martin County, Florida. November 11th through 15th was recognized as Bible Reading Week in Martin County, and the 20th Annual Bible Reading Marathon, a 90-hour continuous read through the entire Bible, lifting up the Word of God, was held at the Bandshell in Memorial Park in downtown Stuart. And here to accept, we have Dr. Julie Bjornson.
Hello. Pastors Eddie and Joanne Rodriguez of the Church of the Rock in Port St. Lucie have taken charge of the Bible reading marathon this year as Pastor Helton has passed. They are not able to attend today, so they asked me to read the following and receive the proclamation. Commissioners, greetings and blessings. We are very grateful for this proclamation from Martin County as it marks the 20th year holding the Bible reading marathon. During the Bible reading marathon, it is amazing to see the hope it brings to so many people. The love, dedication, and unity it brings to the community each year is deeply expressed by all who participate. People come and enjoy the freedom of reading God's Word out loud. This year, we had ex-military personnel participate who have fought for our freedoms, for the freedoms our country enjoys. Several took advantage of our call-in arrangements. The Bible reading touches so many hearts and lives in ways that are unexplainable. It is something that is an honor to experience and witness. The expression of gratitude in each person as they step up to read the Bible brings forth faith, hope, and belief. It is what our country, our county, and communities were and are established upon. Thank you for your support, and may God bless you, Pastors Eddie and Joanne Rodriguez. Now, I just wanted to say something. The Bible, the English Bible, is just 400 years old. It became the foundation of our nation. Our freedom and our rule of law that created our nation was founded on the Bible. We always start our Bible reading on Veterans Day, November 11th. So November 11th was our 20th year reading the entire Bible at Memorial Park's Bandshell. We are so grateful for your support. Many of our nation's presidents have encouraged keeping the Bible an important part of our daily lives. Some have even called national days of prayer and fasting. November 11 was also important. It was the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower Compact, a document of 200 words signed on November 11, 1620. It was the first written document to establish self-government in the New World and shaped what has become our United States of America. They desired one nation under God, the God of the Bible, and to have the freedom to worship and share the gospel of Jesus Christ. During these unsettled times, may our nation continue to hold fast the truth of the Bible, evident in our Constitution that we are one nation under God and that all men are created equal with equal justice under the law. This Christmas season is a time to reflect on the lives that have been sacrificed for our freedom to worship Jesus Christ, who was and is coming again very soon. Thank you for your support of our 20th Bible Reading Week with this proclamation. Merry Christmas to all. Do I have to put this on for the picture? Stand 6 feet away. We'll go like this.
Safely distanced photo.
You're fine.
Okay, on to public comment. I have 4 speaker forms, 3 for general public comment, and 1 for public hearing quasi-judicial number 1. So if you would like to speak, you haven't already filled out a speaker form, please do so. And our first speaker is Joan Goodrich.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Administrators. Joan Goodrich from your Business Development Board of Martin County, your economic development partner. And I'm here to just speak a little bit about Newfield, so I would go into that category for your public hearing. There's a lot to appreciate about Newfield, including the mixed-use district, which will provide Palm City and Martin County with another vibrant downtown center. And thanks to Mr. Kiplinger's vision of a community without gates, it will also be open to all of us. And speaking of open, the 70% of the parcel which will remain in open space conservation is just so impressive. While I don't ride horses yet or walk on the trails, certainly those of our community that will see a very special parcel in our community. And of course, it's no surprise to you that as the Business Development Board, we're also very enthusiastic about the future opportunities to come to the Martin Enterprise Park part of Newfield. It's one of our largest and most visible sites for major economic development activity. And we want to thank you as the board for identifying this parcel as the most promising way to grow and diversify our economy. The 300-acre site on our turnpike, has the opportunity and promise to bring 2 million square feet of approved space for research, light industrial, manufacturing, and other warehouse uses for our targeted industries. And as you know, this past August, we worked together to educate our community about the possible reauthorization of one of our important economic development tools, the ad valorem tax exemption program, which they reauthorized. And Martin Enterprise Park is a perfect place for this tool to be used and a place for our jobs and investments to occur. So with the vision of Mr. Kiplinger as a local, the care that his team has invested in involving the public's input into this project, the forethought in the planning that's gone in it, and the jobs and tax base potential of the Martin Enterprise Park, we believe that Newfield fits and complements Martin County's distinctiveness and truly by design. So we hope you will support it, and please know that we will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. And our next speaker is Missy Campbell.
Good morning. I'm Missy Campbell with the Palm City Chamber of Commerce. Excuse me. We know that right now home prices are going way up in Martin County and home inventory is way down. It sounds great if you already have a home here, but if you'd like your adult children to come back and live here, it's kind of a difficult time. I know this because both of my adult children live here and many of their friends would like to and are unable to at this time. There are many reasons why Newfield is so exciting. The vision that Knight Kiplinger has in bringing life includes a variety in size, style, and pricing of housing. He's finding solutions to what's called the missing middle, which refers to the lack of housing options for young families, like I was just talking about, and empty nesters. It's a significant challenge for Martin County, and it's only getting bigger by the day. As Joan mentioned, Newfield will have 70% of its land in open space conservation, and lots of property for parks, ball fields, horseback riding, mountain biking, and trail exploration. I couldn't grasp what 70% meant, so I needed a visual. So I made one for you too. This water bottle is filled with 70% green space. So that open space is where there's going to be homes, and all this green will be open space for us. As you can see, it's quite a huge amount of open space for us to enjoy. Newfield is catering to the active lifestyle so many people love. There are active people who don't necessarily play golf. We have plenty of wonderful, lovely golf communities that are gated in Martin County, especially in Palm City. Newfield is a nice change of pace. From a recreational standpoint, Newfield is providing something fresh and desirable. From a more attainable workforce housing standpoint, Newfield is providing something that is in great demand. We hope that you can support this today and make this community a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Leave it to the teacher to bring visuals.
I was going to say, you can
Kudos.
take the kindergarten teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the kindergarten teacher.
So true. Our next speaker is Tom Pine. Did you bring visuals?
He did. He did.
Did you bring visuals as well?
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tom Pine. I live in Jensen Beach, Florida. First, I'd like to thank Martin County for finally getting crosswalks painted on Savannah Road. Even though it's probably been over 2 decades since there's been crosswalks painted on all the intersections. The fact is, there are 2 grade schools on Savannah Road, and this crosswalk should have been a priority when it comes to safety. Where do our tax dollars go? First, let's look at Parks and Recreation Department, latest boondoggle, the new Martin County Golf Course, where the price tag is at least $8 million and counting, and it hasn't even broken ground yet. It will have every bell and whistle known to mankind relative to golf. The golf carts will even be equipped with GPS at a substantial price. I guess that's so golfers don't get lost while golfing. There's nothing unusual here when it comes to spending our tax dollars on dreams and wishes for those in power. Now back to Savannah Road. While the crosswalks were a welcome sight, there's a lot more that should have been done. First off, the commercial driveways that used to have crosswalks are no longer going to be painted, even though the traffic warrants it. I guess the budget restraints. There are several commercial driveways that don't even have stop signs. They also added bike lanes on Savannah Road by making the driving lanes narrower. There's several places where the bike lanes could not continue along the roadway because of restraints in the width of the roadway. So the bicyclists are directed back to the sidewalk. I believe at this point the sidewalk should be widened to 6 feet to add safety for pedestrians and the cyclists. Then there's the broken sidewalks. There's quite a few along Savannah Road. Several had a quick fix but didn't last. I'm not talking about a few cracks in the sidewalk. Where large parts of the sidewalk are buckled up to the point where it's dangerous. Then there's the trees and shrubs that are close to the sidewalk. Even when trimmed, they take 20 to 30% of the sidewalk. On a 4-foot sidewalk, that doesn't leave much for bicyclists and pedestrians. When it comes to spending our tax dollars, there's no amount of money that's too much that won't be spent on dreams and wishes. Budgets seem to only matter when it's something the general public and
Sir,
safety.
your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Cool, thank you. Mr. Merker, do we have any commenters on Zoom? No, Madam Chair. Okay, well, that's all I have for public comment. And today's agenda, we have a presentation this morning by Spam Robotics that we're going to take, and then that's going to be followed by public hearing number 1, public hearing quasi-judicial number 1. We'll then take the 3 departmentals, and then we have a consent pool to take. So we will welcome, commissioner comments. I'm already stifling. Let's start down the end with Harold Jenkins, Commissioner.
Okay, I just want to announce I'll be using $11,805 of my MSTU district funds for surveying and mapping and using ground penetrating radar to identify grave sites at the historic Gomez Cemetery in Hope Sound. This is a project we've been working on for a couple of years. I also want, last Friday night we had our first Christmas tree lighting in decades in Hope Sound, which was a success. Just the right amount of people showed up so everybody could be socially distanced, and I want to thank Place of Hope for opening their brand-new building with their coffee shop for that event, and the Grove Restaurant for catering it, and Chambers Electric for providing electric to our tree. So this is something that I think the community is going to do every year, and that's it. Thank you.
Great. Can't wait to see it. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we too, we have our annual Taste of Jensen this evening. If you haven't bought your tickets, please do come. It's a fantastic event that's been going on for, I guess, roughly 20 years, plus or minus. It's a lot of fun. All of our local restaurants in Jensen Beach come out to downtown, set up a sample of whatever they have chosen for their flavor for the evening. We also, too, will have our Christmas tree lighting in downtown tonight as part of that festivity, and we'll have some caroling and music, and it's usually a pretty fun night. Probably a chilly night, but it'll be festive anyway. Additionally, we had our Florida Association of Counties annual policy conference last week in Jacksonville. We have all of our Martin County priorities in the priorities of FAC's list for this upcoming year, so I feel good about that. I feel that we are in a good place with them. Excuse me. And we will be also getting those same priorities entered into the National Association of Counties program for this coming year. And we look to have a very successful year relative to the things we're working on. So great meeting last week. It was good to see everybody. First time in 8 or 9 months that we've all been together. FAC did a great job spacing people out. They heat tested everybody on the way into the conference. We had a hybrid meeting. We had live presentations from remote locations. We had people in the audience and presenters in the audience, and people are getting really good at doing this stuff, so it came off very well, and very much appreciate all the effort that our staff up there put into making it happen. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Campy? Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, I just want to beg my fellow commissioners to reinstate the mask mandate. Our infection rates, our numbers are soaring. They show no signs of abating. Instead, they're just getting larger and larger every day. This is the most critical part of the pandemic so far. With Christmas just around the corner, we know we're going to see another spike. It's absolutely essential that we renew the protections for our residents and reinstate the mask mandate. I pulled some statistics from the state of Florida and Taiwan. Taiwan has 23.7 million people. Florida has 21.5 million people. The geographic area of Florida is just under 66,000 square meters. Taiwan is just under 14,000 square meters. So Taiwan is 1/4 to 1/5 the size of Florida. Florida has 1.06 million COVID-19 infections. Taiwan, over 1 million. Taiwan has 716 cases. Florida has had 19,176 deaths. Taiwan has had 7. Taiwan is one of the most densely populated places in the world. There is no way that they can social distance. There's no way that they can do without mass transit. The difference between their figures and our figures are masks. Now, these are sobering statistics. It's time to once again take proactive steps in order to provide the best protection that we can provide for our residents.
Okay.
That's a motion. Motion to reinstate the mask mandate.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hurd. Comment by Commissioner Campy.
Thank you very much. We've all been reading, and whether it's social media or newspapers or watching TV with more traditional media, there's obviously been a lot of talk about increases in cases and deaths, and I appreciate Commissioner Hurd's comments. But what I want to be careful about doing is using examples, and that's a sobering example, no doubt, but we could also have people come and show examples of the opposite scenario. I have tried as hard as I could during this whole process to educate myself and take advice from folks on the front line, our medical professionals, who try, as far as I'm concerned, work hard to just deal with the facts as they know them. Our hospitals here, the barometer that we should be using is what level of capacity, what level of intensity are they at. The county puts out a chart every single day that I've been following. It's difficult to, you can look at it, and depending on your perspective, you could see that it says, yes, there should be a mandate, or no, there's obviously no need for one. But I think it's important that we remember we need to get, I don't want to get back into a situation that we were in last time where we created an emergency order that had criminal penalties, and then, it felt like over the course of several meetings we were zigging and zagging to figure out the appropriate strategy. Now, several months later, we should be a little more tuned in. I would ask Ms. Woods for some clarification. We can't today specifically react to Commissioner Hurd's motion to immediately put the mandate back in place without certain emergency declarations in place. And by having an emergency declaration, there's twofold, and you'll correct me if you disagree, please, Ms. Woods. One, I don't know if the current set of circumstances we are in, although they are concerning, I don't know if they would elevate to level of emergency declaration based on some legal criteria. That's first. Secondly, when we did create the language that a majority of us at different times felt was appropriate, that was by an ordinance. And an ordinance based on county policies needs to be advertised for X amount of time. So we wouldn't be able to make a decision on that today. We'd have to advertise it effectively. This has been a very controversial topic, obviously. We have been sued. I don't know what the current status of that case is, but obviously we don't need to walk ourselves into a brand new lawsuit for people that are very passionate about this issue on both sides. So if we are going to have a conversation on this, which I'm not opposed to, I want to make sure that we follow along the appropriate path that you set forth for us. And then if we were going to have that conversation, I would want to hear publicly. I can make my own phone calls to doctors at the hospital, to administrators at nursing homes and assisted living facilities. I think that the way the media collectively has been giving us information on this, it just depends on your perspective on what you hear. So for us personally, for me at least, I'd want to hear from our hospital administrators, our doctors, to see what level they think of urgency we're working at. I have stood with the option of the masks for a multitude of reasons. The most simple one is, it's, in my mind at least, it's the least we could be doing. And I think that you could look at the numbers of counties that have had mask mandates in place and say their numbers have not shown the effectiveness of masks, as well as you can look at mask communities that have them and see, like Commissioner Hurd just mentioned, there are a lot of examples where, how do you determine why one community's had a success in combating corona versus others that haven't? And to me, masks, at the very least, we could be doing that. We did have exemptions in place for people that had medical issues or emotional issues, but to just whack the hornet's nest one more time without having the proper protocol in place on how we would initiate it, and what do we really need to be doing at this time? Thank you.
So just to outline the current situation, we have a strongly recommended advisory pursuant to an emergency order, which is issued through the county administrator. A emergency order that had a requirement for it, had a strict requirement, a mandatory, if you will, would trigger under Florida statute the criminal penalties, which the board in the past has shown no appetite to utilize. And you're correct, Commissioner Campy, that the board then directed the county attorney's office to draft an ordinance which allowed us to opt out of the criminal penalties and to use a civil situation. In order to do that, we would have to advertise 10 days prior. We have a meeting next week. We don't have another meeting until January 5th. So it would take, we couldn't take any action procedurally until January 5th. In my legal opinion, we are not at the status of declaring an emergency to pass an ordinance on an emergency basis. The second thing will be, I had no board direction, so I don't have an ordinance in the first place. I think the last question so that's your procedural path. The status of the lawsuit, my office have filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit because we don't have a current ordinance that requires it, so the question is moot, if you will. And the judge has not yet ruled, at least of this morning, the judge has not ruled on that yet. The case is still there, but we have a motion to dismiss the lawsuit.
Okay, Commissioner Hurd, you have your light on?
Yeah. Well, we had an ordinance, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have an ordinance that we could, once again, approve. And also, as I recall, the notice requirement is reasonable. So I don't think that it's a 10-day requirement. I think that 7 days is reasonable.
No, ma'am. Respectfully, in order to pass an ordinance on a non-emergency basis, which I don't think we've got the facts here for an emergency, it requires publication in a newspaper of local circulation 10 days prior to the hearing. I couldn't meet that requirement with the title of the ordinance to give the members of the public reasonable notice to proceed. So you're right, we do have our previous ordinance that expired or was repealed, but we wouldn't be able to meet the statutory requirements for advertising.
You want to make a motion to start the process for the next meeting?
Sure, I'll move that we start the notification process for an ordinance.
So you're withdrawing your prior motion?
Well, it wasn't going to get a second, and I disagree with Sarah Woods. I think that you're trying to find every way to say no instead of finding a way to say yes. I believe that we can do this, and we can do it in a week, but if you're saying that you're not going to do it, then if the only way that we can do it is to begin the notification procedure that you're saying is our path there, then certainly I will make a motion that we start our path there.
Well, and I believe she said the law dictates our notification
Statutory,
requirements.
Commissioner, and again, in order to meet the requirements for an emergency ordinance, which then, of course, triggers notice requirements for members of the public, as your county attorney, I'm letting you know, I don't have facts currently in front of me that would meet the emergency facts. We did it before, but again, in that case, we had radically different facts looking at our infection rates and the statements by Cleveland Clinic, our local hospital authority. But again, I don't have that information. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm merely giving you what the law requires, and Chapter 125 requires 10 days notice for an ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Campy?
Thank you. Obviously, we have a county attorney for a reason, and with all due respect to Commissioner Hurd, I have to follow the legal advice from our attorney. None of the five of us are attorneys, so I'm okay with that. The reason I will second Commissioner Hurd's motion is because I think there should be a process in place. We can't, even if it was a possibility today to just say we want to put it in place, I don't think we're serving our public well on either side of the debate to just put it in without having any announcement. What I'm willing to do in seconding Commissioner Hurd's motion is that this will obviously be another situation, but it allows for a conversation for both sides of the issue. If folks that feel that it's not appropriate that we do it again, or that our current set of circumstances don't warrant it, they should be afforded the opportunity to come and make their claim. And for the folks that think it's vitally important, we have been receiving emails saying people would wish that it would come forward. I'm not opposed to that. So I want to be clear that my seconding Commissioner Hurd's motion is to allow for the conversation. It doesn't mean that when we're back 2 weeks from now, or excuse me, at our second meeting, that it'll be an automatic from me, but I would appreciate hearing from our medical professionals on what their current status is in our hospitals, because that's what I've been using to make these indications.
Thank you.
Second Commissioner Hurd's motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, a second, and Commissioner Jenkins.
So, Ms. Woods, has the governor changed his prohibition on issuing fines for mask mandates?
No, he is not. He
Okay,
extended
so what we're
that
talking about is
prohibition.
passing a mandatory mask mandate that mandates everybody to wear a mask, but if you don't wear a mask, that's okay too. Is that what we're talking about? It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but that is just silly.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call for a vote. We have a motion on the floor to advertise by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion fails 3-2 with Commissioners Jenkins, Smith, and Heatherington dissenting. Okay, I also had a couple of comments. First of all, I wanted to recognize and congratulate a wonderful woman from Indiantown who was nominated to the Women's Hall of Fame. And now she has been inducted to the Women's Hall of Fame, Thelma Waters. And I grew up in Indiantown, so I knew her as a familiar face that has always advocated. And I know many of you that have been at the county for quite a long time know her as a woman who has worked side by side with the county and advocated for Indiantown. So I think she deserves this recognition and anything that we can do as a board. I certainly think we should send her a letter of congratulations from the board.
Madam Chair, is there any way that we can invite her to come to our next meeting so that we can genuinely celebrate her here? Being inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame for the state of Florida is a huge, huge accomplishment.
I would love to have her at the next meeting, so if we could reach out, and I know that they have some plans, that they are in process recognizing her in Indiantown, but we certainly will invite her to our next meeting. And Commissioner Smith, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, no, just to add to that a little bit, I was fortunate enough to be out in Indiantown the day that they announced that she was on the list. The list of women that were included was nothing short of amazing. So not only is she in that final, the final selection or final selected group, but she was joined by some phenomenal women, historically and current. And so it was really fun to be there, and she had no idea that it was happening. And to watch her expression light up, it was, for those of you who know Thelma, it was really, really something to watch. So congratulations to her again, but we'll do that when she comes.
Well, I couldn't be prouder, so, to have her in Martin County. And then the other announcement was just that we have the Business Development Board Business Awards this Friday, December 11th, from 11:30 to 1:30. It's being held at Hutchinson Shores. And this year, I think more than ever, we really, the focus on our local businesses and supporting this is so important. So we have 8 awards that the Business Development Board is awarding to businesses and leaders, and there are a few remaining tickets which you could procure by going to bdbmc.org, the Business Development Board's website, bdbmc.org. Okay. That is all for Commissioner comments, and we're going to move to our preset. I'd like to welcome Stacy Jones to the front to present SPAM Robotics. And thank you all for being here.
Hello, my name is Makane Raineri. Ms. Stacy's not here with us today. She's out of town on vacation, but I'm the team captain of our high school robotics team here in Martin County. This is my first year as captain. I'll be for the 2020 to 21 season, and we're just here to kind of give you a little update on what's going on and tell you about some of our awards that we won last year. So in March is when our competition season starts, and everyone knows that's kind of when COVID started to get really bad and everything got canceled. So our season was cut short, unfortunately. But we still managed to win some awards. There weren't many that we could actually compete in because most of it is robotics, but we do have an award called the Chairman's Award. Showcases all the outreach and activities that we do here in Martin County, so our outreach at the Martin County Fair and other things like that. So we actually managed to win the Chairman's Award for the first time since 2016. They announced that online, and then one of our longtime mentors, his name is Eric Scheffler, he won the Woody Flowers Award that showcases an exemplary mentor. So that was good.
Hello, my name is Lizzie Van Hooser, and I am the Communication Vice Captain for FRC 180 SPAM. Your high school robotics team based here in Martin County has had multiple challenges this past year, but we are grateful for all the opportunities that have come our way. One is of our amazing relationship we have cultivated with 4-H. Our Dalton Student Board decided to form a 4-H robotics club called Martin County First Robotics Club. We believe this expands our ability to reach new students and sponsors throughout Martin County and better align us with this temporary location at the Martin County Fairgrounds, Building B, near the 4-H Extension Office. Meeting at this location allowed us to build a competition field so the team can practice for our events. This space also allowed us to meet safely during the pandemic with adequate space for social distancing and excellent ventilation.
So good morning. My name is Natalie Parkell, and I am the UF-IFAS Martin County 4-H Extension Agent. And so we have wonderful, wonderful news to share with you, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share this about Martin County 4-H, pairing with SPAM Team 180, and now we are also calling ourselves Martin County First Robotics. So the partnership of these two organizations is truly a match made in heaven. And both groups share the mission of positive youth development with a very strong emphasis in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So both have been generously supported by our community and the Commission for decades. So thank you all very much. And both working in concert will equip Martin County's future generations with the tools to succeed in a rapidly changing society and global economy. So just to remind everyone in here that thanks to a USDA rural development grant a few years ago, this chamber had commissioned a food system feasibility study. And the findings of that were published by the University of Florida's IFAS Extension exactly 1 year ago this month. And according to the recommendation by the study authors, given the demand for additional local product, new agricultural producers are another vital component for the region's food system. The study called for a creation of, and I quote, a farm incubator or network of small incubators, which would provide training and technical assistance for beginning farmers. So Martin County Extension was dubbed as a potential partner in that development, and I am here to tell you today that 4-H is taking the lead on the development of just such a training program. So we propose that one way to mitigate food insecurity is to provide the technical and practical knowledge for our residents of how to successfully grow food, not in California, not in Mexico, but right here in our backyards. Surely you've noticed how the coronavirus pandemic has exposed the fragility of our local and our state food systems. So while people are going hungry, we simultaneously have farmers being forced to plow their crops right back into their fields. Our schools do have limited vocational trainings for workforce entry, and hence our youth are leaving agricultural jobs in the county. So we propose a 4-H Youth STEM Academy to tackle these issues head on, and merging forces with an organization like SPAM Robotics allows for a comprehensive approach to such a technical type of training. So precision agriculture is the buzzword for the new frontiers in farming, where technology such as artificial intelligence, robotics, drones, soil sensors, and much more are going to be deployed to combat plant diseases and pests. Hydroponics and aquaponics have already taken root in our community as protected agricultural systems that can be efficient and profitable in our urban communities. And given that our current demographic of farmers in the United States are right at a median age of 60 years old, where do we suppose our next generation of farmers are going to come from? Well, in Martin County, with your help, they will be coming from 4-H and SPAM. So we recently submitted a grant proposal to the Community Foundation of Martin and St. Lucie counties for seed funds to take our program to the next level. And we aim to build multiple farming systems to train youth how to produce healthy food, how to market and sell that food, how to prepare and serve that food, and how to create a network of small farms to support the infrastructure our community desperately needs. It's kind of ironic that we're following Farm City Week proclamation today with something like this. So we will be partnering with SPAM in this venture as well, and we are on the hunt for a facility which will accommodate not only enough area for world-class robotics competitions, but also hydroponics, indoor farming, and other precision systems. Call it a teaching farm, call it a technical center, call it merging the research-based practices of 4-H with the real-world applications of SPAM. So with community partners such as Collab Farms, the Martin County Fair, Martin County Farm Bureau, with Mr. Hafner here, Future Farmers of America, the House of Hope, the 10th Street Community Center, the Stewart Green Market, Martin County Master Gardeners, and the Treasure Coast Food Bank, we are sure to be able to fortify our programmatic offerings to provide broad community impacts. We ask the Commission for an opportunity to discuss options for a site, a place to call home as we engage our youth, teach them, empower them, and build our academy. We know the coronavirus pandemic has hurt a lot of people in a lot of ways. We know that the times are going to get tougher before they get a little easier, but we can count on the expertise of the University of Florida and the land-grant university system. We can count on the 25 years of a nationally recognized, award-winning, community-supported, not-for-profits robotics organization, and we can count on lighting the spark in children across our neighborhoods who are looking to us as the elders of the tribe to point them in the direction of their prosperous future. We would just like to invite you all to join us in that support. Thank you.
So in summary, we just wanted to let you know about all of our awards and remind everyone of how much our relationship with the county means, especially the Board of Commissioners and our school board, and now our new partnership with 4-H. And we wanted to just remind everyone that we're still active and taking extra precautions to maintain social distancing at our new meeting area in the fairgrounds. And we want to continue to inspire the STEM future of tomorrow. So we have a bunch of yard signs and some bumper stickers we wanted to give out. We're welcome to just leave them anywhere if you like, and you guys can grab them later. But we also wanted to invite you to come to any of our weekly meetings. We meet on Mondays from 6 to 8:30 at the Martin County Fairgrounds in Building B. It's open to the public, or if anyone would like to attend. We are going to start meeting again back in January, whatever the first Monday is. I think it is the 9th. So the 14th is our last meeting before December, and then the 9th, we'll meet every Monday then. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sounds like a wonderful collaboration. Certainly, you know, we're glad that you're here, and it's a very appropriate day. Please go ahead and leave the signs, and we invite anyone to join your meetings Monday at 6 p.m. at the Martin County Fairgrounds.
Thanks.
Okay, we are now going to take public hearing number 1, public hearing to adopt notice of intent resolution required by section 197.3632 Florida statutes for special assessments, and presented by Phil Keithley.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Phil Keithley, Chief Project Manager with the Utilities and Solid Waste Department. This is a public hearing to adopt a non-binding resolution declaring the board's intent to use the uniform method of collection for non-ad valorem assessments for a proposed series of special assessments that may be imposed within certain municipal service benefit units to be established for road paving and ancillary drainage, dredging services, stormwater services and facilities, and water and/or wastewater projects. Section 197.3632 Florida statutes requires that the county hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution of intent to use the uniform method of collection or any assessment program in the calendar year prior to any such collection. The resolution, which does not obligate the county either to use the uniform method of collection or to impose any one special assessment, must be adopted by January 1, 2021, and sent to the tax collector, the property appraiser, and the Department of Revenue by January 10th of 2021. Additionally, Section 197.3632 requires that notice of the public hearing to adopt the resolution of intent be published for 4 consecutive weeks immediately preceding the date of the hearing. The notice of intent was properly advertised, and the affidavit of publication of the notice of intent will be part of the resolution. The notice of intent allows the county to meet its statutory notice requirements necessary to use the uniform collection method. The resolution to be adopted today is non-binding, and the board may reduce the geographic areas covered by any future assessment or decide not to impose any special assessments at a later date. By adopting the resolution, the board is simply preserving the right to use the uniform collection method beginning in November 2021 for projects implemented prior to such a date. Staff's recommendation is for the board to accept public comment and adopt the resolution of intent to use the uniform method of collection for non-ad valorem assessments. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any public speaker forms. Does anybody would like to public comment? Seeing none, Commissioner Smith.
Madam Chair, move rule.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will now move on to public hearing quasi-judicial number 1, Newfield, request for approval of a development agreement. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so ex parte. Do any of the commissioners have ex parte disclosures? Commissioner Jenkins?
I have, they've been filed.
Yes, ma'am, they've been filed.
If any, they've been filed on my end. Commissioner Camping?
If I have any, they've been filed.
I have, and they've been filed.
Okay, does the applicant have return receipts?
Yes, I do. And I also have a copy of the agenda item and my work history to enter into evidence as Exhibit 1 as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any interveners?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and now swearing in of the witnesses by the clerk.
Please, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay. Take it away, Mr. Walden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Peter Walden with the Growth Management Department. This is an application for a development review agreement between Martin County and the master developer of the Newfield project, formerly known as Pineland Prairie. The Newfield project contains approximately 3,411 acres and is located west of the Florida Turnpike, north of Southwest Martin Highway, and south of and adjacent to the C-23 Canal in Palm City. This is the first of 2 public hearings concerning this request. It has been a couple of years since the adoption hearings concerning the project, so I'm going to give a brief review of how we got to this request. I'll review the development agreement process, the agreement contents, and review the individual impact fees and timing triggers in the agreement that provide the benchmarks for development. Review of the Newfield project started in September of 2017 when applications were filed for several comprehensive plan amendments and proposed land development regulations and zoning changes. The proposed comprehensive plan text amendment created a new future land use category, the mixed-use village. It also proposed an alteration to the primary urban services boundary that would incorporate the developed area of the future project. The future land use map amendment was also applied for that would apply the mixed-use village future land use to the 3,411 acres that make up the Newfield project. After a year of review and 6 public hearings, the amendments were adopted by the Board of County Commissioners on August 21st, 2018. The new policy in Chapter 4 of the Comprehensive Plan includes the criteria for the mixed-use village. It establishes the planned mixed-use village zoning district that implements the MUV land use. It approves the development program for the project, which includes the 4,200 residential units, 290,000 square feet of commercial space, and the 2 million square feet of industrial workplace development. The policy also requires that 70% of the project is left open as preserves, school sites, agricultural uses, and civic open space inside the PUSD. The policy also organizes development of the project by outlining uses both inside and outside the PUSD, and it references transect zones as the organizational method for development. And I'll quote directly from the MUV policy 4.13a.15, the applicant shall plan and appropriately fund public facilities consistent with policy 14.1b.2, which requires that future development shall pay for the full cost of the capital improvements needed to address the impacts of such development. The MUV development program shall include development agreements that address public facilities, infrastructure, and the timing of development to be adopted prior to or concurrent with the first master site plan approval. After 3 public hearings, the Board of County Commissioners adopted Article 11, Planned Mixed-Use Village, into the Land Development Regulations on September 11, 2018. Article 11 is a comprehensive set of code that implements the MUV future land use. The article only regulates development within the Newfield project. The code establishes neighborhoods that are organized into transect zones. The transect zones determine the uses, intensity, and standards that will be constructed and will organize development in a continuum from rural to urban. Article 11 also regulates the review procedures for development, providing a sequence of approvals that coincide with the code, comprehensive plan, and the proposed development agreement. Moving on to the development agreement itself, it is important to remember that the agreement is not a development order. The agreement does not authorize any construction or development on its own. All proposed development is subject to master and final site plan approval. It is not similar to a PUD agreement that allows flexibility in the code in exchange for providing a public benefit. The agreement must adhere to the comprehensive plan and all land development regulations relating to the project. The development agreement is a planning tool that will help the county and the master developer make the best use of available resources and time the events and benchmarks of development needed to ensure level of service standards are provided for the project. The agreement outlines the allocation of impact fees generated by the project. All of the impact fees credits allocated to the developer will be used to provide for a level of service required by the comprehensive plan. All of the credits will fund facilities for the general public of Martin County. There are no private amenities planned or funded by public impact fee dollars. Development agreements are regulated in State Statute 163 and Article 7 of the Land Development Regulations. The adoption process requires 2 public hearings, both of which may be before the Board of County Commissioners if there is no other relative review required by the local planning agency. Also required are public notices through mailings and legal advertisement which have been provided as part of this agenda. The agreement is adopted by ordinance and requires annual review, at which time staff will report to the board as to compliance with the agreement and the status of development. And a review is required to start within 1 year of approval. The development agreement provides for future planning where the applicant will work with staff to design and construct facilities for parks, infrastructure, and environmental programs for public use. The agreement outlines the maintenance responsibility of both parties as to right-of-way improvements and public facilities. It provides room for future agreements relating to the management of those facilities. Timelines are an important aspect of the agreement. In order to receive impact fee credits and remain in compliance with the agreement, the developer must adhere to the design and construction benchmarks outlined for the public facilities. The board must approve all projects, budgets, and plans related to the use of impact fees. Any improvements funded by impact fees generated by the development will come before the board for approval. All impact fees are either paid or credited at issuance of building permits pursuant to state statute. So now I'll give an overview of the individual impact fee categories, starting with the library fund. The master developer will pay 25% of all required impact fees to the county. The agreement allocates 75% of the impact fees to design and construct a minimum 6,000 square foot library facility and the associated infrastructure. The site location, design, and cost estimates will be brought before the board for final approval prior to construction. Construction is required to begin prior to the issuance of the 700th building permit, and the developer will have 2 years to complete the project. The second category is open space and land conservation. In addition to setting aside 70% of the property in the Newfield project as open space, the developer, in exchange for 100% credit of impact fees related to open space and conservation fund, will provide the following: a minimum of 3 trailheads to provide public access to the 2,000 plus acres of open space are to be located and designed along with staff and approved by the board. A stormwater treatment area, or STA, will be built adjacent to the C-23 canal on approximately 125 acres within the project. The STA will only be used to reduce nutrient pollution in canal water and will not be part of the development stormwater system. And finally, the developer will work with staff and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission to establish a gopher tortoise recipient site within the project boundary. The next category is parks. The developer will pay 100% of all beach access impact fees. The developer will also pay 15% of the active parks fees to mitigate impacts to parks outside of the development area. The remaining 85% of active parks fees will be credited to the developer to establish a phased parks master plan within the development. The developer will work with staff to produce the master plan for board approval by the issuance of the 150th residential building permit. For the fire, rescue, and law enforcement funds, the developer will pay 100% of the impact fees generated in those categories. For the public building fund, 65% of the impact fees generated by public buildings category will be paid by the developer. The remaining 35% of the public building fees will be credited to the developer to aid in or expand on the development of the public library. The language in the water and wastewater service agreement is still to be finalized and will be provided at the second public hearing, but it is very straightforward. The utilities for utilities, the developer at its expense will design, construct, and install all water and wastewater service lines for the project. The developer will pay all water and wastewater capital facility charges when capacity is reserved at the final site plan requesting service. And the final category is transportation. The developer will be responsible for improvements to Citrus Boulevard within the confines of the development, including planned roundabouts and access lanes as depicted on the attached exhibits. These improvements will be planned and constructed in conjunction with the final site plans that will utilize the improvements for access. The developer will be credited impact fees needed to design and construct an extension of 84th Avenue from the neighborhood limits to Southwest Bush Street, creating an alternate route to Southwest Martin Highway and better access for the public, fire rescue, and law enforcement. After completion and allocation of funds for 84th Avenue, the county and developer will agree to apply transportation impact fee credits to the widening of Citrus Boulevard from 2 to 4 lanes. Other than the sections of Citrus Boulevard and 84th Avenue mentioned, the developer will construct all of the streets and right-of-way improvements that support them throughout the development at their expense. As stated, the agreement is conditioned on providing annual reports to the board with information regarding compliance with the agreement, the comprehensive plan, and land development regulations. In doing so, the developer is assured that level of service for county facilities will remain available, and the county is assured that the developer is providing all of the infrastructure agreed to in conjunction with the agreement. This request has been reviewed by county staff and found in compliance with all Martin County Code. Therefore, staff's recommendation is to move that the board receive and file the agenda item, including the staff report as Exhibit 1, and move that the board announce the second public hearing for the development agreement will be held on Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for staff? Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah. First of all, throughout the development agreement, the county is not defined. Who is the county?
Well, that would be the Board of County Commissioners.
So the Board of County Commissioners is going to be approving all of the things that are in the development agreement?
No.
It is requesting the approval of the development agreement through these two public hearings, and all of the aspects of the agreement will be continued on and asked for approval when appropriate. So there are benchmarks that, some of the facilities and things will still come before the board for approval on each individual impact fee allocation.
Allocation of impact fees, all the decisions that are going to be made in the development agreement are going to be made by the Board of County Commissioners at a public hearing.
Correct.
Okay?
No.
Krista Story, Senior Assistant County Attorney. I want to focus on the use of the term public hearing. Any of these decisions will come before the Board of County Commissioners in a public meeting. There is no requirement for a public hearing, which in our terminology means something advertised and notice is provided. But obviously, the decisions that are made by the county, and the language in the agreement says Martin County, and it's called county throughout. That is the legal terminology for the party. The Board of County Commissioners is the arm of the Martin County that makes these decisions. So that is why that specifically you don't see Board of County Commissioners in there. And the decisions will come before the Board of County Commissioners at a public meeting.
And which decisions will come before the Board of County Commissioners?
Those decisions that are identified within the development agreement that Mr. Walden was talking about.
Library, what else?
The park master plan, the road development.
We could pull up the places in the agreement that identify the types of decisions going forward that must be made by the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, let's pull it up. Let's pull up all the times that the Board of County Commissioners is mentioned in the development agreement.
The term county is mentioned.
No, Board of County Commissioners, that's what I want you to pull up. How many times is that referenced so that we have the authority for approval or not?
Commissioner, as I was, and I probably wasn't as articulate as I needed to be, Martin County is the legal terminology for the entity that enters into the agreement. And if you go to the signature block, you see Martin County, Florida, by Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. In my legal opinion, there is no necessity to specify Board of County Commissioners. This is a very standard language in agreements. There is no other entity that makes decisions.
Is staff going to be making decisions?
No, Commissioner, they are coming before the Board of County Commissioners. If we need, I don't think it's legally required, but if it's important to clarify that, we can certainly clarify that within the document.
It's just that we have always had the responsibility and authority, the requirement to approve development in Martin County. The Board of County Commissioners, if the current rules are if it's more than 49 units, it's a major project, and the Board of County Commissioners has the ability and the authority and the requirement to approve or disapprove. This is going to be very different. This is not going to require LPA public hearings. It's not going to require Board of County Commissioner public hearings. So when is the public going to be invited to engage in this development?
So, Commissioner, let me drop back a bit and talk about what the development agreement does and does not do. The development agreement is addressing levels of service and the allocation of impact fees and the obligations of the county and the master developer. The decision regarding when site plans, final site plans, master site plans come forward is not addressed in the development agreement. Those requirements were already established in Article 11 of the Land Development Regulations. As Mr. Walden indicated, a component of that is the review procedure. When the Board of County Commissioners adopted that ordinance back in 2018, those procedures were established. So the Board of County Commissioners sees the master site plan approvals, master site plans. Final site plans will be handled at the staff level. Those decisions were made almost about 2 years ago.
So we're going to look at the master site plans as they occur, as this is phased in?
Yes, ma'am, and you have your first one that's actually on your agenda for next week.
And for how many units is that?
I'll defer to Mr. Walden.
That's for 1,251 residential units.
And we're going to have, we're going to know exactly what's going to be developed in those 1,200 units?
We'll have a very good idea due to the specificity of the transect zones and how they organize development. Yes, we will.
Is there flexibility?
In the master plan?
Yeah.
There's only, they can be changed, but they would have to come back and revise the master plan.
So if you look at this, which is going to be presented to us next week, you can point to here on the plan and you can say there are going to be 56 townhomes there, and here there are going to be 26 single-family houses, and here there's going to be a park and so forth?
Well, within reason, yes.
No, specifically. Are we going to be able to, since we're going to be approving or disapproving a site plan for 1,200 units, are we going to be able to tell what's going to be constructed?
Yes, we will. There is, the transects allow, and the master plan has a transect plan attached to it and is part of the transect allocations. Each one of those transects allows up to a certain amount of development within that space. And they are very specific to the block structure of the master plan. So when you look at a certain block and the transect within it, you will know how many units are allocated to that block. So other than that, the overall count of 1,251 units cannot be surpassed with the plan. So that is what you're approving.
I'll ask you about that next week when we have the plan in front of us, so that you can show us exactly what's going to be constructed as I point to every transect.
Look forward to it.
So this is going to be 4,200 units maximum, which is, if we use 2.23 residents per unit, that's 9,366 residents. It says the development agreement will ensure that the development standards, intensity, land use, and impact fee allocation may not be augmented without the approval of the county and the developer. When you say county, who does that mean?
Again, Commissioner, so the county refers to Martin County and the Board of County Commissioners is
So
the
it means-
decision-making body. Again, if the board, if we feel it would be important to clarify that, we can indicate that that refers to the Board of County Commissioners, and again, as indicated, this is the first of 2 public hearings, and so any input the board has, we can address before next week, and then provide the board with with the applicant's input, with what we believe would be a final development agreement for consideration by the board next week.
That's exactly what I'm concerned about, Ms. Story, is that there are going to be 9,366 residents. There are going to be 4,200 dwelling units. There are going to be 290,000 square feet of commercial, 2 million square feet of industrial, and I want to know when the public is going to be able to participate in the discussion about that development and construction, and what the Board of County Commissioners is going to be approving.
Commissioners, so I'm happy to respond. I think we're digressing a bit from the topic of the development agreement. The decisions regarding the number of units, the number of square feet, all those items are text with that type of specificity that was included in the comprehensive plan text amendment that came before the Board of County Commissioners, was considered by the local planning agency, transmitted to the Department of Economic Opportunity, and ultimately adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. That document, the comprehensive plan amendment, was then implemented through the process of Article 11 of the Land Development Regulations, which again followed the process for the public hearing process, was considered by the local planning agency at a public hearing, came before the Board of County Commissioners. At that point in time, those decisions regarding the review process was clearly codified within that and recommended for approval by the local planning agency and ultimately adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. So now in terms of final site plans, that process, and if I'm jumping into Mr. Walden's, but beyond the master site plan approval, which is as codified, comes before the Board of County Commissioners, up to 11 master site plans, correct, Peter?
Correct.
The final site plans will then follow the normal process for review at the staff level. There are public meetings that are held regarding those as well, correct?
Yes, as laid out in Article 11, correct.
But they're going to be approved by staff.
That is correct. As, final site plans
How will
are...
the public know that these meetings are occurring if they're being approved by the staff?
Ms. Woods, do you have something to add?
I just, and I apologize if this is tedious, but I think that the members of the public listening need to understand what's before the board today is in essence a contract. And I would like to point out to everyone that the contract begins with, this is an agreement between Martin County, a political subdivision of the state of Florida. I'm sorry. It's between Martin County, which is referred to as a political subdivision of the state of Florida. As your county attorney and one whose specialty is in transactional work, contract work, if you will, That's how all of our agreements are. The same way with the other side, when you get down into the part where you sign it, the signatory area, you specify who's signing on behalf. That's in accordance to Florida law, and it's nothing unusual, and there is no need for anyone to be confused about what county means, because it's in the heading of the agreement, and that's how all of our contracts are. So just so that the members of the public and anybody else who's wondering, this is standard operating procedure, the way counties do contracts. Thanks.
Except that this is different. This is a development of regional impact that's going to have wide-ranging impacts in Martin County, and we aren't going to be having the same sort of hearings, the public hearings, public review, participation, and approval by the Board of County Commissioners as we've had for every single other development that we've approved or disapproved and constructed in Martin County. This is going to be very different. This proposes that the negotiations are between the developer and the county staff, without review by the public, without approval by the Board of County Commissioners.
With respectfully, Commissioner, I think there's the development agreement that's in front of you, and there is the comprehensive plan amendment that was approved in 2018, which is where some of your comments appear to be directed, which are not before you today, but which were approved in 2018.
And I'd like to stay on the development agreement that we have today. Does anybody else, commissioners, have specific comments on the development agreement item before us before we do the applicant's presentation?
I still have some.
Pertaining to the development agreement?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at the, prior to the issuance of the 50th building permit for a residential dwelling unit, the master developer shall submit to the county for review and approval the documents necessary to guarantee the preservation of all open space and conservation areas outside the primary open space and conservation. So I've been asking from the beginning of this, what is the legal construct for this? Can you tell me?
Yes, all of the area outside the urban services boundary is going to be consolidated into 2 preserve area management plans that the county will authorize and instruct the maintenance of. But in addition to those PAMPs with the county, the developer felt it was a second level of confidence that the land would never get developed if they were placed into a conservancy and taken care of in that regard. So this is just a second level of protection on the property, in addition to the preserve area management plans, which will come before the board next week.
So we won't get a look at the legal construct that's going to protect those lands from being developed until when?
Until the 50th residential building permit. So
Okay, and
very soon in the process.
And the underlying land use on those conservation lands is?
The whole entire community is mixed-use village land use.
All right. I'm looking at the transportation component. There were no maps that were included in my packet. So I don't know. There are plans to do a 84th Avenue extension, Bush Street. Are those outside or inside the urban service boundary?
They will be, some of the extension will be outside of the urban services boundary. That'll be a road connecting the neighborhood area that will be, the 84th extension will be constructed and paid for by the developer within the neighborhood. The area outside of the neighborhood that connects over to Bush Street in this area down here, which isn't very clear, we can probably clear that up for the second hearing, but this part will be funded by impact fee dollars generated by the development.
What I'm asking is, are the impact fees being used to extend roads outside the urban service boundary?
Yes.
If transportation-related impact fees are replaced by a mobility fee, all references to transportation-related impact fees shall apply to mobility fees. What are mobility fees?
Well, that's something the county, I believe, is looking at in current studies as to how to apply future impact fees, and that's something going forward. We want to make sure that if impact fee structures do change, that we'll have flexibility in the development agreement to apply them as they are at that time.
Master developer and county recognize that over the life of the agreement, changed conditions may result in counties determining any and all improvements identified in Table 1 are unnecessary, should be postponed, or are no longer financially feasible. County shall have the ultimate authority to determine the appropriate application of transportation impact fee payments. Who's the county?
Well, that would be the county commissioners at the direction, the county engineer will help establish the need for the level of service and what roads need to be approved with impact fees.
Okay, so it's going to be the Board of County Commissioners.
Sure.
Under reservation or dedication of land, that's not applicable, including the conservation lands?
Commissioner, that's not either a reservation or a dedication of land. Will be the subject of some of the conservation easement or other conservation documents.
Under breach, once again, it says that the county may serve written notice in the event of a breach. Who is the county?
That's the Board of County Commissioners, Commissioner.
Okay, at a public hearing?
Look at the language. Well, the notice would not be done at a public hearing, but the process established for considering whether there has been a breach is specified in that section.
Oh, I
Maybe
see, it's
Pete
on
pulled it up.
14.3 there, so there is a reference. So there are two references to the Board of County Commissioners in this development agreement.
As distinguishing it from the local planning agency, which might be the topic of a public hearing if that, in other circumstances.
And I'm looking at annual review and reporting requirements. County shall review this development agreement every 12 months to address compliance. Who is the county?
Well, it will start with the review submitted to, I believe, it indicates it will first come to the Growth Management Department Director, and then the further review and determinations, if necessary, if there's compliance issues, will be presented to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay. Thank you. Those are the questions that I have preliminarily.
Okay, thank you. We are going to continue on to the applicant's presentation.
I chose an inopportune moment for a bathroom break, so I missed the swearing in.
Oh.
Mary Kay, can you swear in
Miss-
Mr. Kipling, please?
There you go.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You might need to move that mic just a little bit up for your...
Okay.
Right.
Very good. Very, very briefly, I'm Knight Kiplinger, representing the family land ownership of this piece of land that we have owned for nearly 40 years. Very pleased to be with all of you. It seems as if we all saw a lot of each other about 2 years ago. And the last 2 years have been spent in the very busy but quiet periods of planning and detail. It took nearly a year for public bodies to delineate once again the wetland classifications on this property, Corps of Engineers, South Florida Water Management. While they were doing that, really confirming maps that our family had had for many years, we were working on the master site plan, creating the master site plan, working with staff very extensively on this. So a very busy period, but out of the public eye, no announcements required, no permissions required until we find ourselves here today at a first hearing for the developer agreement. Very, very, and here you have the planning timeline. Mr. Walden described some of the key milestones in this timeline. There they all are. This is a large, innovative project, unlike anything the county has ever done, as Commissioner Hurd pointed out quite accurately. It has had enormous amount of scrutiny, public comment, review. The local planning agency approved the concepts unanimously. Our Board of County Commissioners, likewise in a 4-1 vote. So all of the major contours of this plan, the number of residential units, a mix of units, different types and prices of housing, things of that sort, consistent with traditional neighborhood design. All of this got very extensive review and public comment on many occasions about 2 years ago. And we're very gratified at how positive the public comment was. This is really the first bottom-up planning process and conceiving of a new community in this community. Typically, a landowner or a developer bursts forth with a full-blown proposal, an application. And it's often the first time the public heard the ideas, heard the concept, saw the big idea. Instead, early in 2017, I embarked on months and months of extensive meetings with citizens without a plan to comment on, because I was listening. I was asking these people, what should I do with this 3,400 acres surrounded on all sides by prior development of earlier decades, while our family farmed this land, citrus, potatoes, tomatoes, and all that sort. And I told them that for years I had decided quietly to myself that the by right use of this land, carving up this beautiful piece of land into 5-acre ranchettes on well and septic, was really a very retro land use, not the sort of forward-looking, progressive land use that is happening all over America, but not previously in our region. So I said, what are some of the priorities that you as neighbors feel? And I'm talking about the neighbors at Palm City Farms, the neighbors at Stewart West and Cobblestone, neighbors in Martin Downs. What are some of the priorities? Well, they talked about housing. They said our county has served very well the housing tastes of high-income, generally older people. We have beautiful gated golf course communities. We're very proud of those, wonderful places of live. But as Missy Campbell from the Palm City Chamber said earlier, where will our young adult families live in our county? Where they want to live, where will they afford to live? What's called the missing middle in American housing. People with somewhat lower incomes, but we might be talking county staff and firefighters and school teachers, young adults graduating from our high schools, going off to college who would like to come back here. I heard this over and over. How about a housing mix, more housing choices in our county? For empty nesters whose large homes no longer are what they really need, young families, lots of different kinds of people. They talked about the environment. They said, instead of carving up our land into large home sites, gobbling up so much land, let's live a little more compactly. Let's preserve more open space for public use and somewhat less on a per household basis for the owners of that lot. Water quality led to our concept of diverting some water from the C-23 through a flow-through marsh, very much like the very fine project the county did at Canopy Creek. Well, I'm not going to go on at any more detail. I just want to say that we find ourselves now at a first hearing on a developer agreement where we will implement the time-honored tradition in this county that development should pay for itself. The new residents, not the current residents through their taxes, but the new residents should pay for the county services, the addition to county services that they're moving to our county and buying homes here will occasion, will require. And that's where we are. And we have here some conceptual drawings. They're not, as several people have said, germane to today's hearing. We'll maybe talk more about those next week. But this shows conceptual concepts of the town center, the village center, about halfway out Citrus Boulevard, as it gradually grows. People who are alarmed at the prospect of rapid growth in this community need only look at Martin Downs, which took 30 years to build out into the nice place to live it is today. We're not going to dictate the pace of home sales in this community. Not I, not the county. The market will dictate that. What we want to do is give people more housing choices that they don't currently have in Martin County. And that's what this is all about. And through the developer agreement, assuring that the new people pay their fair share of the public safety in the parks and the road improvements and things of that sort. It's a great concept. And we'll be either doing those things ourselves, such as building a library at our expense, or we will pay whatever the appropriate percentage of the impact fees are directly to the county for things that the county will do. Some things we'll do ourselves and be credited, some things the county will do, and we will pay anywhere from 15 to 100% of those impact fees. So that's the concept. We have been blessed to have the world's greatest planning project manager in Marcella Camblor, who is very, very local, resident of Sewell's Point, very active in our community. And Marcella, why don't you build upon Pete Walden's very good description and tell us a bit more about it. She'll be repeating a lot of things that Pete said with fancier graphics, because the younger people, especially the women, it seems, are really good at this stuff. So, Marcella, take it away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Knight. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and staff. With us here today, I want to say that Ann Kiplinger is here today. She has not missed a single one of those meetings since day one, keeping Knight in check. Also, our entire team, each one of the specialties has participated in the development and the creation of each one of the categories that this developer agreement proposes. I have said it before, but I'm not tooting anybody's horn. It has been a pleasure, a very long period, but a pleasure to work with your staff. They're professional, they're responsive. I think they're excited about this project too. So we truly appreciate working with them. And I have to say that this is a very complicated document, and we have tried to make it such that you do not need a planning degree to understand what's going to happen when. We usually see that the community doesn't know when the road is going to be widened or when they're going to get a sidewalk, and don't understand what the CIP is, and don't understand all of these regulations. So this entire developer's agreement that was mandated not only by your comprehensive plan, but by the contract we entered into with the county at the time of this new land use and zoning category, it was mandated for this, and we tried to do it so that it is triggered by number of units. Anyone can go out to Newfield, count how many units are there, and know what's coming. So another premise of this developer agreement, again, just to understand the issue that is in front of us today, is that all of the development, the new development, as Mr. Kiplinger stated, is responsible for paying for the impact to public facilities that it will cause. Existing development, as your staff has stated, pays for the maintenance of the one that's there through taxes, but new development should pay for the new impacts. What this project is going to do is not only meet its level of service, but exceed its level of service, so that Martin County will be in a position of truly having excess level of service in every single category for years to come, for decades to come, because of this project. Traditionally, developments happen where someone comes in with a master site plan, pays their impact fees to the county collects the money, Some of that money goes right away, and now, according to statutes, it needs to go directly related to the impacts of that development to police, fire, water, wastewater. And over time, as the county can collect more money, it goes towards building roads and libraries and other recreation facilities. What we noticed with Newfield was that it would take a very long time for the county to collect impact fees and then be able to build the facilities. So we've reversed this. There are public facilities like police, fire, water, and wastewater, where the master developer is going to pay 100% of those fees to the county. I mean, no one's going to run a parallel police department or a parallel fire department. These are things the county needs to do and needs the money right away. But there are other things where the developer is going to be credited a percentage of the impact fee that relates to that category, and right away, ahead of time, build the public facility and then get credited over time. As you know, this is your impact fee schedule. There are 7 categories here, and then in addition to this, there's water and wastewater. Out of these 7 categories, the developer will build 5. Won't just pay their way out of it, they will build 5 of these categories. The graphics that was mentioned again is so that everybody can see and understand the proportion of impact fees that relate to the library. Per the number of residents that will live maybe in 20, 25 years in Newfield, at build-out, there would be about 5,600 feet of library required. The developer is going to receive 75% of the credit of that portion of the impact fee. Within the 150th unit, the developer will firmly identify the location of the new library. It's important we give this period of time because this is a joint planning process. You will see throughout this document that we have to work with your staff to determine the location. We have to work with your staff to determine the design. We have to work with your staff to determine how all these buildings are going to be used. Within the 700th unit, the construction of at least that 6,000 square feet has to begin. The master developer has 2 years to complete that library. If you think of an absorption of about 200 to 250 units a year, which is what models are currently showing, this means that by year 3 of construction of homes, a library begins. This would have not happened the other way around. This developer agreement also states that the developer will work with the county to provide an additional capacity of up to 12,000 square feet because the county and other entities have stated that they would like to see a larger place. What is very important about this library is it's not a conventional library. The world is shifting a little bit in everything, in retail, in how we experience recreation. And libraries are changing to what is now known as third place, from transactional spaces where you just go in and get a book or use a computer for a few minutes to more relational spaces. And in particular, in your parks department is very much into this concept and wants to possibly add a community center to this. I mean, they include cafes, they include public and private study areas, they include outdoor library spaces and entertainment areas, both inside and out. And the concept is that this third place will include all of that very early on. The master plan that you're going to see next week has a preliminary location for the library, and we will get into those details with you. But again, it'll come in front of you, and your staff and the board will have a decision on whether that's the right location. The second category is public buildings. The master developer is receiving 35% credit of that percentage, again, to expand maybe meeting rooms, community center, additional activities onto that third place. There's great interest in your staff and the county to evolve this to a much more encompassing third place that has public facilities in it. For open space and conservation, where the level of service impacted by the 9,600 residents had built out should have been to provide 140 acres of open space, and 2,400 acres are being provided instead. The developer is receiving 100% credit of that section, which the county is requiring it be split into two categories. 40% of that to be used for the design and implementation of paths, 3 of which need to start by the 25th unit. Again, if someone says, when will I be able to go into, into Newfield, and they see that the houses are there, they know they have to be able to go in, should, for any reason, that not be available. 60% to the proposed STA. Upon the 50th unit, there will be the documents executed, brought in front of you to guarantee that 2,400 acres, to the areas that need to preserve are perpetually preserved. And in this agreement, and I congratulate your staff, they've been pushing, this will be the first gopher tortoise receiving site in Martin County as well. Just to show you, I think it was mentioned in your questions, the county has to preserve open space, the tool of the PAMP. PAMP 1 is going to come immediately. In fact, as of next week, it comes with a first final site plan. It's about 500 acres, bigger than Halpatioki Park. That will be defined with a first master site plan. PAMP 2 encompasses all the open areas that have wetlands that are outside of development, and then there's a third level, which is PAMP 3, which will take care of all the wetland areas that are encompassed in master site plans. Again, every time a master site plan comes in, you will see the PAMP 3s established, but PAMP 1 and PAMP 2 get established with the first master site plan in 2 weeks. The STA, for those of you who don't recall where this is, and 60% of those impact fee for open space will be credited to creating this facility to enhance the water quality of the C-23 canal. As far as parks, 85% of the impact fee percentage that is related to parks, 100% of what is related to beaches, which is it varies between 8 and 12% of the impact fee, that gets paid 100% of the remainder. 85% will go to parks. There's a requirement that by the 150th unit, at a minimum, there be a temporary field built and planned and identified. Again, we set these terms because we have to work with your staff in design and location. And by the 300th unit, that at least has to be built. The beginning of the overall illustrative plan shows you that there are 2 major field areas and recreation areas proposed, one directly across to downtown. You can take your kids to play soccer or lacrosse and have a cup of coffee while you're waiting, and then a major event facility right over by Boat Ramp Road across the street from the high school, ideally to create a major sports recreation area for Martin County in the future. So we have to work on those elements with your staff. As mentioned, fire, rescue, and corrections and law enforcement, those get paid in full. There's really not much that the developer can advance except, and as per the request of the fire department, 84th Street connection will be extended outside the urban service boundary because there is a desire to place the new fire station where the current shooting range is. This connection will allow better response times, will allow your fire department to connect to Citrus, over Becker, and around to Murphy Road and Palm City with a faster response time as well. And in addition, I'll talk about this road in a little bit, but they are getting 100% of the credit, but this explains why that road first got implemented there. Water and wastewater, again, pretty straightforward. We're going to be dealing with this like any other development does. Of importance is that every road in Newfield is and will remain forever public and accessible. Every road has been designed and the entire town has been designed with multimodal transportation in mind. And so as far as the roads internally, this developer agreement states that the developer will build them. And once they're built, the county will maintain the traffic control devices, sidewalks, travel lanes. That will be obviously with taxes over time. And the developer will maintain street lights, street trees, landscape. There's no credit involved in this, but I just want to make clear that this developer agreement states that the roads get turned over to the county, they will be public, so that this in 15 years doesn't become a gated subdivision, where people don't have access. The roadway, other roadway improvements, Citrus Boulevard, will be completely funded by the developer. It states that with the first final site plan that access is off of Citrus. The improvement to Citrus need to happen. As you can see, it's a true boulevard section between Pioneer and Maryland streets, which is the only portion where the town touches Citrus Boulevard. There's a preliminary section that gets built where only half the boulevard or the eastern slip road gets incorporated. But if you see these large brown or tan areas here, these are 12-foot multimodal paths. So right now, the road has a 4 to 5 foot bike lane along Citrus Boulevard. Wherever we can control that, it will be a 12-foot trees, bound on both sides, multimodal path to truly allow for bicycles and other modes of transportation. This is the section at build out, and the developer agreement states when that has to be built. And back to 84th Street. The portion of 84th Street through the development is 100% paid by the developer. The remainder to connect to Bush Street, the developer is going to get 88% of, the developer is going to upfront it, design it with your staff, upfront it, build it, pay for it, and then over time get credited for the construction of that road that would potentially connect to the future fire station right about here. Once that is done, we will sit down back with the county, with the board, with your staff, and determine whether connections necessary or widenings necessary from this point to Becker and this point to Martin Highway are done by the county. We pay impact fees and the county does them, or the same methodology is used where the developer pays for it upfront, builds it, and then gets credited over time. So I'm sorry it was a little long, but hopefully this clarifies the term of each of the public facilities, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Marcella. What we're going to do, we're about a half hour past our closed captioning break. So we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. If you could join us after that 10-minute break, and then we'll proceed with questions for the applicant. So we'll see you back here at 10 after 11. stops at the applicant's presentation for public hearing quasi judicial number 1, and I'm going to entertain any staff or applicant questions. Commissioner Campbell.
Madam Chair, thank you very much and welcome. Your first day.
Thank you.
Full day. I had just a quick question for the applicant's representative. It's no secret that obviously I'm in favor of the project. I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Kiplinger when he first reached out to me, I think in December of 2017, and asked me and told me about what he was looking to do. And then when he just briefly mentions that he spent, bless you, the good portion of a year reaching out and doing community engagement, I think that's exactly what so many projects in the past have failed to do and then created much more controversial environment than was necessary. I have termed what Mr. Kiplinger did as the Kiplinger process. And when I meet with other applicants that are coming forward with projects, I give them that same strategy that was a winning strategy for your team. As the district commissioner, I would obviously get a lot of the feedback. I've gotten very positive feedback, and it has been quiet for a year, even though you've been busy working behind the scenes on the street. The public hasn't really heard much about the project. I just have 2 questions. One is more of that I hear quite often is, why was there a name change from Pineland Prairie to Newfield?
There was a name change because I'm a quirky guy. The first name was my idea. People at the time said it's kind of a mouthful, 4 syllables, 2 words. Might there be something shorter? But this is a good opportunity to say that I regard the entire property, 3,400 acres, as Pineland Prairie. Within it, there were always going to be discrete zones. The light industrial, office park, warehouse zone lying between the Florida Turnpike and Boat Ramp Avenue is Martin Enterprise Park. It's the best employment growth opportunity our county has for location and size and that sort of thing. That has a discrete identity. We designed it into the entire Pineland Prairie project, but it has a discrete identity. We've been talking today about the first PAMP, first 2 PAMPs. It's going to be called the Kiplinger Conservancy. The county's PAMP rules are totally sufficient for the protection of this land in perpetuity for that purpose. But in addition, as pointed out earlier, we will probably have an additional layer of natural protections in some sort of conservancy structure. But the Kiplinger Conservancy, it's been pointed out, the initial 500 acres is just a shade smaller than Martin County's largest park today, Halpatioke, at about 550 acres. When more land, PAMP 2 and 3, are added to the Kiplinger Conservancy, it's going to be far and away the largest publicly accessible parkland in Martin County. So that has a separate identity of sorts. It'll be signed differently, but when you get to the town center, Newfield, it will feel like the traditional neighborhood design that we have been talking about from day one. So in a piece of land this large, there will be separate places with separate identities. You can call it what you will. Newfield, I think, has the benefit of brevity and simplicity. It's exactly the same. You can call it Pineland Prairie, you can call it Newfield. It doesn't matter. Both names came out of my head. You know, products sometimes change names, you know, all the time.
Not critiquing you, just asking the question.
Yeah. So that's the long explanation for the addition of the Newfield name to what we had first proposed.
Thank you, sir. Marcella, I had received an email, I think all of us did, and we have been working with our staff on more of a neighbor problem, historic problem, which was flooding and drainage in Palm City Farms. A lot of folks, both south and north of 714, we recently had a meeting with interested parties out there. It was their meeting. They invited me to attend. I brought some of our county staff, and as I'm sure you're familiar with, we've spent close to $700,000 on a very, very comprehensive long-term study of how we can address these issues once and for all. Now, some of them are more site-specific, where someone might have eliminated a county-developed structure, or people that wanted water on their property, they block and dam our swales, and people that don't want water remove our structures. A lot of folks are nervous on the northern side of 714 on how your project will affect the future of flooding and drainage. I know you've addressed stormwater treatment, and I've been party to a lot of the strategies that are in place. With such a large piece of property, with so many abutting neighbors and neighborhoods, have you started to contemplate, I'm sure, how natural historic flowways, not from the C23 canal, but from just drainage, ditches and swales, how will you address and incorporate those? And is there a possibility that through a lot of the work that you're doing, that the neighbors will see an enhancement to an already difficult situation?
So we could give you a very technical answer, because we have the people that have been working on the drainage here in the room too. The short answer is, of course, our consultants have been working on ensuring the historic flows and not flooding anyone else. But the proposal, the way I see it in simple terms is the whole 3,400 acres used to be a regular plate on your table. Now it's going to have a number of lakes, so it's going to be like a soup bowl in your table. A lot more of the water that normally was going directly flowing outside of the property following the natural historic flow is now going to be contained and specifically directed to where it has to go. A lot of the strategy is, in fact, improving the capacity of the Bessie Creek. Our consultants have had the consultant that the county is using review the strategy that we submitted to South Florida Water Management District, and we have another meeting with them. I think it is next week, Sean. So we are fully coordinating with your effort, and I think that it is because of this effort that there will be more capacity in Bessie Creek, and therefore assist the neighbors. But back to what you said before, Mr. Kiplinger posts regularly on the website. It reaches over 7,000 people. And we can also, all developer agreement, all this is going there as well. And we can, post some of the efforts of the water, or attend one of your meetings with the neighbors. We're happy to do that.
Give us the website address again.
Is it still pinelandprairie.com, just to complicate the name? Of course, yeah.
No, I think you're better off leaving the website, that
Yes,
name.
it is
That's the name that you-
pinelandprairie.com.
So they can see up to date.
Yes.
I knew that was the answer. I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to say it publicly. The drainage and the flooding issues in Palm City
And
Farms have been
just
very, very severe,
to-
and people are edgy.
To also, again, kudos to the county, the South Florida Water Management District holds us to a certain standard. The county standard is higher, and we're, of course, following county standard.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your update today.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move to public comment. I have 3 speaker forms at the moment, and the first speaker is Ted Astolfi.
Ted.
Mr. Astolfi.
Look in the room. Time's up.
We did start the
Don't
ticker.
worry, I'll get it to Karen, not to worry. I'm Ted Astolfi. I'm the CEO of the Economic Council of Martin County, and I'll preface my comments by saying that we do not take positions on specific projects. What I'm here to do is encourage you to move forward on this developers agreement because of the really innovative and progressive land use plan that was developed and the way that it's moving forward to ensure, things like the Martin Enterprise Park, the 300-acre industrial park that's going to come up, the dedicated open space, and particularly the wide variety of sizes, styles, and prices of the residential units. This entirely new mixed-use village concept is really, I think, where we need to go in the future, and we really encourage this type of land use to happen in Martin County, so we encourage you to approve the developer's agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Bill Reinhardt.
Thank you for having this. I basically have a question and a concern. The question is the intended use of the property west of Citrus, where it meets Canal 23. If you could get the map up, I could actually...
Sir, this is public comment.
Okay.
So you have 3 minutes to make public comment.
Great. Well, we're not in favor of this if the intended use of the area west of Citrus and south of Canal 23 includes the water treatment plant. We've been unable to determine where the water treatment plant actually dumps into Canal 23. We're also concerned about the enhanced water quality of the Canal 23 and how the water treatment plant would actually do that. And number 3, the Citrus widening of Citrus there stops at a part where going north, they're saying that it dumps back down and stays at 2 lanes, is what I understood through the presentation, because it went to red lines. Also, the bridge there is only 2 lanes. However, Citrus, from the bridge to Citrus, from the bridge on Citrus to Becker is a 4-lane area. The bridge is only 2 lanes. So while we're widening Citrus, we're squeezing back down to 2 lanes going into the bridge. And being someone that lives next to the bridge, I already experienced the morning and evening commutes of traffic jams trying to go from 4 lanes to 2 lanes to get onto Citrus going south. Now we're going to double that capacity. Well, we're not doubling the capacity, we're doubling the traffic by adding 4,200 units to the property that's being developed. They've got to get out of there. I understand widening Citrus. If it widens down to 714, that would be great. Not having it widen clear to Becker causes a traffic jam going across the bridge. I don't know who owns the bridge. I believe it's in Port St. Lucie County. Are they aware that somebody's going to pay to widen that bridge? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next public speaker is Janet Reinhardt.
Yes, we're related. I'm encouraging, I think the whole, whatever you're proposing sounds fabulous. We don't live in Martin County. We live across the railroad tracks on into St. Lucie County over the canal. But we are impacted by it simply because of the development going in along Citrus Boulevard. I encourage you guys to cross your T's and dot your I's because, as we all know, with any developer, if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. No offense to all the suits here, okay? But you know you will, okay? So if you can please make sure that everything has been triple checked to ensure the community and the people that live here. It does impact us, as my husband said, because of Citrus Boulevard and the amount of traffic going back and forth. We don't know who we would bring those concerns to, but we'll start with you. The other thing are concerned about is, I think it was PAMP-1. I think it was a diagram that showed the conservation areas. Okay. Anyway, you called that perpetually preserved, and I'm just wondering what that means. Is that forever, never to ever, ever, ever be developed? Or is it, well, right now we're going to preserve it, but if things go great and we continually need to add homes, we're going to creep into this area? Because that is, again, it's along the canal and it's right across from us.
just want to know what perpetually preserved means. Thank you.
Thank you. That is my last public speaker form, and I'm going to bring it back to the board. Commissioner Campy?
Thank you. I thought some of the questions that were mentioned during public comment were legit and I think easy enough for our staff to address. I'll just reiterate them. The perpetual PAMP, those folks actually, it said that they live in St. Lucie County, so they might not be familiar exactly with how we handle those situations. I could tell you from my experience, ma'am, that if those areas are perpetual PAMPs, they are never on the table to be developed into the future. And I think Mr. Kiplinger said that he's going to take it one level higher than that. Our rules and regulations are very, very strict. And Mr. Kiplinger and the family are looking to create a conservancy, which would make it even much more difficult to do that. But it's not like once they use up that area that they'll start encroaching into the other areas. Those are forever, and that's what I think makes this project so unique. The other question in regards to bottlenecking when you have 4 lanes or 2 lanes heading, 4 lanes and then head back to a narrower bridge. We've had other areas in the county where those have been issues. I'm sure someone either on the staff of the developer, here comes our engineer, you're in a unique spot because it's a county divide. And so I don't know if that's our bridge or St. Lucie County's bridge, but Ms. Wixer can address it further.
I'm Lisa Wixer, I'm the county engineer. The bridge over the canal was constructed by Martin County, and it is Martin County's bridge. The developer's agreement identifies that the impact fee credits will be given to the extension of 84th Avenue. All other impact fees, road impact fees, will be spent by the county to widen portions of Citrus Boulevard over to Becker Road as well as down to Martin Highway. So that includes the widening of the bridge.
So there you go.
We analyzed that for a good.
Thank you very much. That's what I thought, but it's good to reassure. That question that you asked is probably a question that lots of people were thinking the same thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right.
And
Commissioner Smith?
yeah, and also too, wastewater treatment and dumping into the C-23, like, I'm not sure where that really would have come
Madam
from.
Chair, Paul Schilling, Growth Management Director. There is what's known as an STA, a stormwater treatment area on this site. There's not a wastewater and treatment plant on this site. It's served by Martin County Utilities. There will be an STA, a stormwater treatment area that Peter can probably highlight on the map. That's toward the eastern edge of the site, I believe. So that will take water from the canal, treat it, clean it, and put it back into the canal.
I was just going to say, so maybe you could, and if you want, you can expand a little bit more on what an STA is. I think however that's been
I'll
read
give it a
into,
shot.
it's a wastewater. It's not really wastewater. It's taking canal water or runoff water from urban land.
Yes, sir. That's taking what is, for lack of a better term, dirty water that's come from the western areas of the county from agricultural and other development, and we'll bring it into the property through a series of stormwater treatment areas, which are vegetation that will biodegrade some of that waste, if you will, and then the water will slowly meander through that area, ultimately meander its way back into the canal for discharge into the river.
And that's part of a much larger program that we've been doing for 25 plus years in dealing with urban runoff and ag runoff. And we have STAs all over the county that we've built for 20 plus years.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Camping?
Yes, barring any other comments or questions from my colleagues, I'd happily make a motion to accept staff's recommendations as presented.
Second for discussion.
Great. Okay. Commissioner Smith?
Could I just clarify what we would need from you today? So what you are doing today is indicating that there will be a second public hearing on December 15th, at which time the document will be presented to you for approval. I want to confirm that what you have is a draft agreement, and the substance of it, we believe, is set. So what's happened in the last couple of weeks is that the lawyers have gotten involved, and I'm Mr. McCarthy and Ms. Spake. The planners have had their opportunities. Now the lawyers are doing their tweaking and clarifying, and we have ongoing discussions. But the board has been presented with the substantive parts of this agreement, and what we'll come back to with your blessing is the tweaking, the clarifying, the fine-tuning, which we're continuing to do almost on a daily basis so that you have a good product that, because many of us, me included, will not be here in 30 years, we're trying to make sure that the readers at that point in time have a clear document that they can implement. So that's
Then I'll rephrase my motion to say, move that the board receive and file the agenda item, including the staff report as Exhibit 1, and move that the board announce that the second public hearing for the development agreement will be held on Tuesday, December 15th, 2020.
And seconder
Seconder agrees.
first, and you had a comment, Commissioner?
Yeah, I did. It just, for those that may be a first time to the process in terms of what we're doing here, I hope everybody can at least try to appreciate all the work and effort that's gone into get this project to the point to where we are today. In my 20 years of doing this, I don't know that we've ever had this level of detail, this level of understanding of exactly what is to come, and all of the work that has gone into, and like the folks from Port St. Lucie had asked about the question of wastewater, the extensive relationship between the Kiplingers and the planners in our staff and us to really make this a world-class project, to make sure that all of the detail has been super scrutinized. To their point, there are other counties in our state that sometimes what appears on the surface isn't exactly 20 years from now what ends up happening. The way that this was constructed and the brilliance behind creating a comprehensive plan amendment that created a chapter unto itself for this project was, in my opinion, probably one of the most brilliant things that could ever have been done, because all the criteria, all the standards, everything that you would love to think and understand that should be somehow accounted for somewhere is and was accounted for in that chapter. That you can go to our comprehensive plan, you can look at it, you can see it, you can understand what's there. Very different than how we do other developments. There used to be these things called DRIs, Developments of Regional Impact. The state did away with them some years back. There was a similar level of scrutiny that went in to DRIs because they were viewed as 30-year projects and thousands of homes. Port St. Lucie has multiple DRIs. Martin County has a handful. But those don't exist anymore, and so the scrutiny doesn't necessarily get applied in the same way that it used to be. But I can assure you that what has gone into this project is way more than what ever would have gone into a DRI, and to the benefit both of our residents, our neighbors, you folks across the canal. And as honestly, I think Ed or somebody may have said it earlier, if there was ever really a model, I think, for Florida as a whole to look at as to how to do good planning and really understand what 30 years from now looks like, this was it. And so to the family, thank you very much for your commitment to us as a county, and certainly the historical commitment to our community, but to really ensuring that credibility was put into the planning process, into the approval process, and to every single step along the way. It's really spectacular what they have done. And what you saw today, granted, that took maybe an hour plus or minus to go through. There are thousands of hours behind that of detail and work that went into getting us to where we are today. Knight had up there a screen, I think it was Knight, maybe Marcella had up there, of the hearings that were held long before where we are today. That was also way above and beyond what any development really would ever go through. So again, thank you all very, very much for your commitment to us, and really look forward to seeing this thing happen in the future. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, I certainly hope that this project succeeds. I hope that the construction is just as pretty as the artist's renderings are, but I don't trade in hope. I was elected in order to represent the public's interest, and we do that through laws and through approvals, development approvals. We have robust public participation, and my concern about this is that we are limiting public participation. There aren't going to be public hearings on a lot of these. The negotiations are going to be between the developer and staff, and staff is going to be making the final decisions, and it's not going to be made through public hearings, and that's my concern. It's an abrogation of my responsibilities as an elected official to protect the public's interest.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to Departmental Number 1, Office of Management and Budget items, which require board approval with Ms. Manning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Manning, O&B Director. Okay, the first item on my agenda is the Utilities and Solid Waste is requesting permission to apply for the IRL, which is the Indian River Lagoon 2022 grant funding of $150,000 for the grinder and sewer system, septic to sewer program. If they're successful, it'll provide an additional $1,000 incentive for 150 households. The second item is permission to apply for funding from the Florida Environmental Protection Agency. This is also a septic to sewer program for Connect to Protect. It'll provide 750, it's part of the cost, of providing 750 vacuum sewers and 100 grinder pump stations. If they're successful, it'll save our people who connect $1,000. It will be about 850 households. Third item is permission to accept the Bureau of Justice Assistant Grant. It's for the adult drug program. It is in the amount of $457,000, and it's helping for staff services, to fund staff and the services. The fourth item is permission to amend the fiscal year budget for the utilities, assessments, professional services, and renewal and replacement programs through fund balance. They're requesting various funds from the consolidated utilities. These are also non-CIP professional services, and they're requesting funds for the CFC, from the CFC Capital Facilities Fund, as well as Utilities Renewal and Replacement Fund and Solid Waste Fund.
Okay. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to Departmental Number 2, contracts that meet the threshold for board approval.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Krista Muskanek. I'm with the Purchasing Department. Christy couldn't be here today, so I'm filling in for her. Bear with me.
My first day, too.
So this is for contracts that are over $1 million. Before you today, I have the grinder station installation and septic conversion secondary contractor, RFB 2020-3263. It is for continuing services contract to assist in the installation of new grinder stations and septic conversions throughout the county service area for single-family residential dwellings. Martin County Utilities Department desires to award the contract to 2 contractors per the RFB. The work will be rotated equally between the 2 contractors. The lowest responsible bidder will be awarded the contract, and the second lowest will be asked to match the unit price of bid items 1 through 4. We're requesting that Gulfstream Building Group Incorporated was the apparent lowest second low bidder and agreed to match the low bidder's price, the Lazarus Group, in the unit pricing. This is a 3-year contract with 2 optional renewals, and the not-to-exceed amount is $1.5 million. Recommendation is that the board move to award the contract to the Lazarus Group Incorporated and Gulfstream Building Group Incorporated. And we also request that the board authorize the county administrator or designee to execute any and all documents related to this request. Any questions?
Great. Commissioner Smith?
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Canby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Track record.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Kristen's actually going to be leaving us. Moving. Yeah.
One and done.
Going to be moving, so we really appreciate her helping us.
Thank you. Okay, we have departmental number 3, discuss the 2021 priorities for the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah, Commissioners, we were asked to have the Commissioners provide me with their priorities that they would like for us to have staff working on in this next year. So I have provided the ones that you had given to us prior, and then the ones that I received from the Commissioners are also on here, and Donna's pulled them up on the screen. So the Commissioner Hurd wanted to verbalize hers today, so we'll be asking her to do that. But you know, I don't know if you want to go through these or if each commissioner would like to elaborate on theirs, since there's no interpretation to these. I put them on here exactly as I got them.
I thought there was supposed to be 3.
That's what I heard.
3-ish.
I'm going to bundle.
3-ish. So why don't we start
I got more
with,
to add.
we'll give each commissioner an opportunity to summarize their outlined priorities, and
Work in reverse numerical order or no?
why don't we,
Stacy, he's going to quiz you the entire rest of the year.
yes, I know.
So you either need to stop it today.
I found
We-
an
we
earplug.
can
One,
move
he
to
never
the-
has to worry.
We
So
can
let's hear
move to
Commissioner
the,
Smith's,
move this table over.
An earplug in your right
With a
ear.
goal of, again, summarizing them. So we'll start with District 1, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know that there's a lot of explanation needed, but similar to some of mine from last year, the continued effort for us to acquire the remainder of Palomar, acquisition of South Hutchinson Island Beach and sand lots. We have a access issue, and we have a working station issue relative to our bathtub beach sand renourishment projects that we also do with sailfish, so that would assist us in doing that. We are still working on getting a biosolids pilot project authorized by the state. We made huge strides last year with legislature in funding and environmental issues relative to water quality and other things, and the biosolids were part of that. But it's still my hope that we can get a pilot project located somewhere in our region, if not here in Martin County, which would be great. The continuation of the reauthorization of the Coral Reef Act. I had an opportunity to talked 2 weeks ago with one of the former staffs of Senator Rubio's office, who's now working for the governor in the DEP role in Washington. He feels super confident that in all likelihood we will get a Coral Reef Reauthorization Act passed this year, which means time is running close, but he was very supportive of that. If not, we will start all over again this coming year, and we will go back to the table to get that done. We are also, I assume, Taryn, have we contracted the economic roadmap? Have we allocated that?
Yes, Mr. Stokes is.
We have done that. So it is to follow through on that and to see the completion of that coming out of COVID and understanding what we did and what we didn't do and where we might want to go in the future relative to economic development, but specifically really how it impacted our community over the last 8-9 months. The other thing I should add on here that I didn't, and there's a whole bunch of things that I probably should have added, is the fairgrounds. I think when we had the presentation come before us back in maybe it was March, April sometime, the board at that time said that they wanted to wait and have the discussion come the first of the year. So hopefully we'll put that back on the agenda and we will start talking about what the future of the fairgrounds site looks like and where we go next with all of that. But that's my list. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as District 2 Commissioner, I'll summarize. One of the things since I've been here 2 years ago that I've been very consistent is our communications efforts. There's always an opportunity, I think, to improve regardless. And we have a wonderful team. As I first arrived here, I thought we certainly need a communications plan. We have not had adopted a new plan since 2012. And to me, that's the backbone, the structure that you use to follow. We don't do capital projects without a capital improvement plan. So that to me is of paramount importance that we adopt a communications plan that we use as a guide to develop that communication and do community outreach. And I always feel that our neighbors, when we do neighborhood restoration projects, they should not see flags in the ground before knowing what the county is doing. So it's little things like that I think that we can encompass. And COVID has, certainly expressed that we've had to be very diligent in communications as well. So one of my priorities when I also first arrived here was to develop a citizen engagement app. We all know that, websites, we communicate information, but everybody has one of these devices in their hands. And whether they're looking for a request for service or they're looking for updates on water quality or open or closed facilities, a citizens app is a great way to communicate with the public. I know that we have begun the process and, of developing it, and I concluded that on my priorities because I hope that we will get that accomplished in the very near future. And then number 2, again, I think that there are some things that I looked at this year that we could review our procurement procedures and look for ways to improve. I certainly think with the nature of the business climate right now, it's important to support local businesses. So I had mentioned at a previous meeting a buy local, buy America policy for the county. So I would hope that we would look at that. I know some other counties across the state have looked at it, and we can adopt that and incorporate that into our procurement procedures as well. One of our goals at the Indian River Lagoon Council, and I think that this is synonymous with what I included in here, strengthen collaboration between local, state, and federal programs to enhance resiliency opportunities to rebuild old and inadequate infrastructure, build new infrastructure to support sustainable 21st century economic growth, and protect vulnerable coastal communities. I think this year the flooding has exemplified, our need to continue to advocate. Our coastal department has been successful at engaging with DEP and getting grants and starting this process. So we need to make sure that we're working with our state, federal partners, advocating for resources and continuing to address these things. this is also a goal of the Indian River Lagoon Council, and we certainly have to continue to look for funding opportunities to grow that program. Collaborate with workforce development partners. One of the things that we always talk about is retaining our employees, whether they be public safety employees, so that we're not losing them to other counties, or even our general county employees. And I think that there's an opportunity because there are a lot of local youth growing up and that want to stay here and remain here, and those are our most viable pool of employees. And I know that Fire Rescue was looking at ways to retain, and I think that there is a lot of opportunity to collaborate with our workforce development partners, our school district, our IRSC, Career Source, and implement a training pipeline and support those efforts so that we are more successful at retaining our employees, which benefits our taxpayers. And then, of course, support any of those workforce growing programs that help our companies to grow, because one of the consistent feedback from companies located here in Martin County is that they need the workforce. They're losing people because we don't have a trained workforce. So support those. And then lastly, but over the last 4 or 5 months, I've gotten quite a bit of feedback on our boat ramps and some of the needs. Sandspread Park, obviously, in my district, has come up repeatedly. So I know we have a boat ramp renovation program, and I would look to identify additional funding and make sure that we're funding the capital projects adequately and renovating those assets. So I've just put down 4 bullet points: increase accessibility and improve safety, decrease maintenance costs by looking at materials and engineering designs, and increase design life rather than doing the same thing. If we're spending money after money maintaining when it's not the best design, that we need to look at funding some of those to come up with alternative designs, reduce the congestion. This year, it was very apparent when we were in COVID, when we were closing and opening boat ramps, which I hope to never have to do again, that this is one of the biggest assets that our public, considers in our county. And I think that we should treat it as such, provide the adequate resources, and because it is probably one of the most important things to our residents. I believe I hit them all. So, thank you.
Stacy, can I just comment on that real quick?
Yes.
Just, I too, and I'm sure all of us have heard from some folks about our boat ramps. I know it's your priority or one of your priorities, but if we could.
Closer.
I'm sorry. I too have heard from some folks about our boat ramps, and I think that, I know it's one of your priorities, but if we could ask staff to work on putting an agenda item together sooner than later.
You asked us to do that a couple weeks ago, so we're doing that, yes.
Okay,
Great.
just to follow up on that, and really, I think part of that should be exploring why we design them the way we do, or what other designs are worth looking at. I know I've had, through the years, multiple conversations with staff over what our boat ramps and our floating docks should look like or not look like, and I think it would be helpful to have sort of a full rounded conversation on all of that.
So we'll have an agenda item that will be coming back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, District 3, Commissioner, Mr.
All right, my first one is the same one that I had when we 3 got elected, and it was our 3 priorities too, is to bring a level of business and customer service to Martin County. And from the conversations I've had with people that have dealt with our departments in the county, we've come a very, very long way. And being more helpful and understanding and such. But we can also build on that. And Ted from the Economic Council touched on that a little bit. One of the things we talked about that we never did implement is the survey. And I think that is hugely important to to keep those departments and individuals accountable to us. You can't really, anyway, so with that, communication improvements, a lot of things that, that can be expanded on our successes. So I would like to really kind of refocus on that. My second one is, and it's now working off of some of the things that you said, Stacy, or Commissioner Hetherington, is developing a communication system that better explains, for example, agenda items. And let's talk about, and we have a prime example of one that was completely misunderstood, and I spent a lot of time before and after our meeting on that agenda item, was the water side. I think that if you take something that is complicated and you describe it in a way, the general public is not reading through our agendas and staff reports. They don't understand. And if somebody gets a hold of some information that is incorrect and starts publishing it and talking about it, you've lost control of the conversation. We need to gain control of the conversation right off the bat, and these are the facts. I don't know if you remember, I think it might have been Pineland Prairie, where Nikki in the meeting goes, this is not this, this is not this, this is this. So state facts and so the public has a better understanding. Now, we can do that, but we also have to get it out to them so they understand it. So, again, I don't know how to do it, but I would like to start working. Taryn and I have had a couple of conversations on this already, and building off of yours, that's that. So, and then obviously CRAs are my big deal. It's one of the reasons why I'm sitting in this chair. We're about to have two great examples of two projects that are going to make a major difference in our two communities that we're talking about, that now the public can understand why CRAs exists, what the results of them properly done is. We're about to have some increased property values in those particular areas, which are going to further fund additional things. So I mean, this may be a priority of mine, but it's never not been. I've been completely focused on this since for the last 4 years. Then, those are my three, but I do have some things that I'm working on that are very important to me, and that's septic to sewer and bringing water into some of my waterfront areas in the Hope Sound area, and also underserved communities that we're working on grants. And so that is something I'm very focused on and is extremely important to me. The fairgrounds, Doug, you mentioned it, which made me write this down, is something that I've been trying my best to push forward. Unfortunately, this last year has really kind of hampered it, but somehow we've got to get that going a little bit better. The flooding, you know, we just received the initial grant for the system for the Hope Heights community. Again, Hope Heights was catastrophic, but we have some pretty serious, just like Palm City, we have some pretty serious flooding issues in Hope Sound that I have been focused on and plan to continue to be focused on. The seventh thing I wrote down is not a priority, it's a comment on one of your items, which is Palmar. Obviously, I'm our representative on the Palmar board. The staff, I think, talked to everybody, including me. I would like to understand or have the only way you and I, that Sarah and you know, you guys have been involved with this for a long time, can have a conversation about that is sitting here. We need to have that conversation. So when I'm sitting through these meetings, I have a better understanding of where the five of us are. Sometimes they throw some crazy stuff out, and I'm going, oh, God, I don't know what that, you know. So anyway, so I would like to have a agenda item every quarter or every couple times a year for us to have a conversation, a frank conversation about what the vision is of what our goals are, what we can do to best represent our constituents in that situation. And with that said, that's it.
Great. Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, just a quick comment on Palomar. Harold, maybe, and I don't know where we are these days at the state level, but we have some new commissioners in Palm Beach County. We certainly in North County have a new county commissioner that was the former mayor of Palm Beach Gardens. I had an opportunity to sit with her and spent a lot of time talking with her last week at FAC about Palomar. She's coming up to speed too, quickly on all that, but it might be helpful to see if we can't have a joint meeting with Palm Beach County to really, I know there were some rule changes in terms of whether we couldn't have joint meetings and how all that gets done. But on that issue, as big as it is and as complex as it is, it might be helpful to maybe talk to Palm Beach County about doing that, to get everybody in the room so that we're all on the same page about it. Just a thought.
I completely concur.
Is that something that the board supports? Okay.
Okay, great, thank you. And just one quick comment, I think some of your communication goals too, that those could be incorporated in the communications plan so that there is an outline document of how we're communicating and to whom and how it's delivered, or is it external? And I think that fits perfectly into that plan.
Mm-hmm.
And we have District 4.
Yeah, before I get into my priorities, I just wanted to make a comment about boat ramps. I think probably all of us were bombarded in the last couple weeks about complaints about the condition of Sanskrit Park boat ramps, and I agree, and I think that inarguably Sanskrit Park boat ramps are the most popular, busiest, most important in Martin County. Therefore, they need to be super prioritized, and I know that Kevin Abate sent us the CIP for repairs for the next 5 years, but I would also like to see Sanskrit Park speeded up, just because those are absolutely essential for us. They need to be prioritized above all the others, in my opinion. My priorities are increase our support for completion of Indian River Lagoon South, especially the natural lands. Indian River Lagoon South was one of the first SERP projects that was authorized into federal law. There have been a number of projects that have been authorized since then. We're going to be competing for federal and state dollars with those. However, all of the projects that have been authorized since IRL South have been modeled on and predicated upon Indian River Lagoon South being finished first. So until and unless all of IRL South is completed, none of the projects will get the projected benefits. So we need to once again increase our support for IRL South. I want to see a completed endangered species petition for species in the Indian River Lagoon. And we need to defeat COVID-19 using our best medicine, our best science, our best data. We have the best doctors and scientists and in the world. So we need to use that knowledge in order to defeat this terrible pandemic. And we need to debrief and make certain that as much as possible, we're prepared with best practices for the next emergency, whatever it is. Those are my 3 priorities.
Okay, thank you. District 5.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I bundled, like Commissioner Smith had said, so District 5 infrastructure is address drainage and flooding issues, and some of these, I'm not saying that we are just about to embark on them. I know that a lot of these have been priorities of our staff and our administrative staff for quite a long time, but I feel that with Jim Gordon, Don Donaldson, and I, we recently met out in Palm City Farms. We're in the process of doing that. I want to continue to message that to the folks that live out there so that they understand. I think, with coronavirus, it's been difficult to have large community meetings, but we were successful in having one at the New Hope Fellowship. We had it outside. It was very well attended. It was probably 150 people there. It's a very important issue, and just because we're in a pandemic doesn't mean that the issues that have been affecting our residents stop or get put aside. So that's flooding and drainage. And so I know that we're addressing it, but I wanted to continue to put it in the forefront. Broadband connectivity, I don't know if it affects, I guess it would affect Commissioner Jenkins in District 3 for the southern portion of the county as it heads west to Indiantown, but I am all the time, there are so many blackout zones for something that most of us take for granted these days, which is interconnectivity to the internet, especially with how many people are working from home, how many students are having to also take their classes, not just in K through 12, but a lot of college students are home and don't have the ability to get on the internet to do their work. I know that Mr. Stokas and I and Mr. Merker have addressed this. I thought that during this time when, with all of the CARES dollars and everything else like that, that we would be able to tap in a little bit differently to grab some, because I understand that Comcast and AT&T basically have told the customers and our residents that live in these areas, tough luck. And I would consider internet access the same as electricity and water and telephone these days. So I'd like to continue to push for that. You can imagine the folks that have zero internet access, how frustrating that must be. So that's a major priority. Like my colleagues, I think that septic to sewer conversion program, we put it in place when Commissioner Jenkins and Smith and I came back in 4 years ago. We made it a very robust program. I think staff has done a great job, especially with the new grinder pumps and other options. But for the folks that have received the new services, they're thrilled, but there's still so many people on the waiting list. I know that originally it was a 20-year program. We shortened it to a 10. I think now as they've started to reach their stride on how to actually handle it, how to have the departments coordinate so that we're not paving roads to then tear them up after the fact, our success level is so well done that I'd like to see us be able to maybe speed that up even more so. I know that the city of Stewart, when we had our joint meeting, said that they had a similar goal. Now I get that their reach is much smaller than ours, but they had a similar goal of converting everyone, and they actually beat their goal. So I'd like to see us do that as well. Fire infrastructure, fire rescue infrastructure, I listed very specifically there the 4 stations that we've been talking about, which is 14, 18, 33, and then the training facility. I know that this is something that we've been discussing for a while. I know that one of the stations is well on its way to being designed and now hopefully built. I'd like to see us potentially bundle the next 3 to a scale where if we have a design, I know that everyone likes Station 23 on Canner Highway just south of Indian Street. That seems to work. I know that there are certain site-specific issues that need to be addressed, but if that specific fire station plan works well for the folks that have to operate out of it, maybe there's an opportunity similar to what the school district did. J.D. Parker School and Citrus Grove is basically the same school. So they saved a lot of money and time and effort utilizing a plan that they knew that it worked. So if that's a possibility, I'd like to see that happen. We, as an administration, have done the hard part, which was locating the funding to make these things happen. Now that that funding is in our bank account, I'd like to see us move, that's normally been the issue for CIP sheets is, well, we don't have the funding. In this particular case, we do. So I would like to see and I know that Ms. Krista, you are working with our new fire administration staff at the high level staff at Fire Rescue Administration. I have had a conversation with them as well. I think that while the money is already put in place, that we need to work faster on those. My final one is parks and recreation infrastructure. And obviously, like we've heard about boat ramps, and I don't disagree with Commissioner Hurd that Sanskrit, even the folks in Palm City, if you're trying to get out of the inlet, that's the logical launch point. So I know that that is probably our busiest, and then I know Jensen up in Northern County is very busy. We are addressing the Palm City one. It's at Charlie Layton Park. And Parks and Rec, we've been working on a park, sort of a rehab of that whole facility, and part of that is including that. That's really the only major boat ramp we have in Palm City. Out in Indiantown, I guess some of their Timer Powers Park, we don't have the same issues there. I know that people that utilize the boat ramps, if they're not properly maintained, they can cause a lot of damage to people's boats as they're trying to come in. In the past, I had a recommendation that someone had given to us that worked. I know that when the Parks and Rec had put in the bumper system that allowed people to sort of, bring the boats in, but quite often it's stolen because it's the rubberized bumpers and the hardware that goes along with it is stolen. And someone had given us a recommendation that we used for many years in Palm City, which was fire hose. If you get used fire hose from the fire departments, that can be tacked into place and cover up a lot of the rough treated wood or any kind of old metal that might be there. It's obviously very, very inexpensive to do. No one's coming to steal it off of the boat ramp. So as a stopgap, I might recommend that we use used and obsolete fire hose for that. Baseball fields and park multi-purpose fields. I know that north of Citrus Ball Fields, there was a vision of putting a multi-purpose rectangular field there. I think if we work carefully, we might be able, and there is a plan in place that is as old as the original baseball field, but I'd like to see if there's a possibility of getting two there, especially as the community grows. I know that what we heard this morning from Knight Kiplinger, but let's not fool ourselves. A lot of those projects that were mentioned this morning are years and years in the future. I'd like to work with our Parks and Rec staff for Justin Wilson Park in particular and create a master plan there. That park we've done some remarkable work in the last couple of weeks. I'd like to compliment our staff, and I think Sunshine Land Design jumped in there and handled some really bad flooding issues. We have to remember that we're not only speaking of our county residents, but a lot of these leagues are offering our young people opportunities to be outside, to be off their computers, and to engage in the things that those of us that are older remember. And we owe it to those families that are willing to keep doing those youth leagues that our facilities are up to snuff, especially the bathrooms. I've used district funds to maintain our level of bathrooms, but when we have, I'll give you an example, the girls softball league in Palm City, they recently had a tournament where they had teams from Okeechobee and Palm Beach and St. Lucie County, and we want to make sure that we're presenting our county in the highest level and light for these folks that are visiting us. I plan on using some district funds to continue to do that. Families, that's basically what they expect of us. A lot of the other services that the county offers, they'll never utilize. So I want to keep pushing for. I know if you look at the entire park inventory, it's a gigantic mountain to climb. But if the 5 commissioners looked at our own district parks and worked specifically with Parks and Rec to address smaller projects, this massive backlog or wish list of projects for the park system as a whole might seem impossible. But I know that when I look at the District 5 parks individually, none of what we're looking to do there is insurmountable. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, 2 quick comments. One, Ed, to that point, if you recall during budget last year, we were going to put off for a year or two some long-range planning for Pineapple, so I put in $75,000 from my district to do long-range planning for Pineapple and expansion there. So it might be something you want to look at doing. Secondly, there is an app at NACO, National Association of Counties, that we, in partnership, I guess, with a national firm, have put together for rural America in testing broadband. And so We recognize at the National Association of Counties and clearly in Florida that we have areas that are like as you described, where we have dead zones or we have lack of service and people that have very, very little or to no connection. So this app, and you can download it onto your iPhone. It's called Test It, T-E-S-T-I-T. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. Anywhere you go, you can do a test your speed here. It'll collect that exact site where you are and collect the broadband at which you are receiving. It will collect it back to NACO, and they are doing a national collection of all of that data to be able to go to Congress and to others at the federal level to really start to pinpoint exactly where we have the weakest links with our broadband capacity. And so, interestingly, at FAC last week, one of the counties that was part of the task force at NACO brought up the idea that all of their field service employees that they had out all the day long, they required them at least like 10 times, I think, a day to do the test it, wherever they were mowing, wherever they were working, whatever they were doing. So they were remotely in the county, was pinpointing exactly that spot, and if it was underserved by broadband, they were collecting hundreds, if not thousands, of data points daily on what's weak and what's strong to really map out where the bad areas are. And again, NACO is collecting all that data. There's absolutely no tracking of your data, where you are, what you're doing. It's merely this pinpoint thing. It's called Test It.
Great. I just had one comment, and on the fire stations and public facilities bundling, and it's a conversation that I'd had. I don't know if I'm sure it has pros and cons on both sides, construction management at risk projects. I know other counties that have far greater than, 3 or 4 projects, though. They have used that. Again, I know that there's pros and cons on both sides. I don't know if it would provide us any efficiencies, just something maybe to look in to see if it's even a viable option for us.
I appreciate that. My concern is that if we build one per year, or if staff is just, not this staff here, but if they're focusing on one at a time, it'll take forever. And remember, the difference here, and I know that I'm preaching to the choir in this room, but the difference is that it's one thing, and I know we need to redo our maintenance facility, and we've been working on that because there's a lot of issues on having 90 people use a facility that was designed for a couple dozen every single day. But the difference in a fire station is these people live in these places. They have to sleep there, shower there, eat their meals there, and some of them are really in dire shape. I know that the county's general services has, kept them sort of hobbling along as best as possible, but we've already agreed that we're building them. I don't want it to be, it's 2 years already and we're just starting with the one. I'd like us to see a much expedited approach since the funding is already in place. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So based on these priorities, it looks like we have a lot of work to do in 2021. So,
Yes, but I do appreciate the board giving us direction because it's very helpful for us.
I'm looking forward to it. And then it looks like we've completed, except for we have the consent pool number 7. And due to the fact that this pertains to me, I am going to pass the virtual gavel to our vice chair and let you proceed with consent number 7.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do we have any anticipation how long this is going to take? And
15 minutes.
Huh?
Should be relatively.
Okay, maximum, because I got to get out of here.
This
So
is our last agenda item of the day.
if it's going to be an hour,
I should hope.
I'm out of here now and we'll come back.
Do you want to go ahead and abstain? Or do you want to do it?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to go ahead and state your conflict? Or do you
Oh,
want
yes,
to do
I will not be participating in this item because it pertains to me. I'll be recusing myself from the vote and again, passing the gavel to Commissioner Smith.
Okay, Madam Chair, thank you for that. Let me just get down to that. Okay, item 7 was an amendment to the board directed policy on reimbursement of attorney fees and authorization of reimbursement of Commissioners Hetherington's,
Oh, so sorry.
I'm sorry?
There you go. She had pulled up the wrong one. Go ahead.
Can we start all over?
No, you're fine.
Hetherington's legal fees from complaint 19-141, Florida Commission on Ethics.
I pulled this. In November of 2017, the state's attorney's office filed baseless charges against me. I hired notable local defense attorneys Barbara Kibbe Wagner and Jordan Wagner to defend me. For a year and a half, the state's attorney's office bombarded us with discovery. They threw at us everything but the kitchen sink, even encrypted materials, tens of thousands of documents. For a year and a half, the Wagners kept meticulous records of their hours spent reviewing my case. In April of 2019, a jury and the presiding judge swiftly and unanimously acquitted me of all charges. By Florida law, public officials who were prevailing parties in litigation arising out of the performance of the public official's duties are entitled to be compensated at the public's expense for their legal representation. My attorneys presented their detailed invoices for their 1.5 years of complex work to Martin County. Their hourly rate for each attorney was $400. Martin County then took the unprecedented step to hire an outside attorney to audit their invoices. The outside attorney examined the invoices and declared that they were reasonable, but implied that Martin County officials, the Board of County Commissioners, would be more inclined to approve the invoices if the Wagners gave a small discount, effectively asking the Wagners to lower their fees even though they were reasonable, asking them, in effect, to have labored for free for 3 weeks. The Wagners are good and honorable and honest Martin County residents who value their fine reputations here. They relented. It took 6 months of foot dragging for Martin County to agree to pay my deeply discounted invoices. Because of my swift and decisive acquittal, the state's attorney's office dropped concurrent but unrelated charges against former commissioners Ann Scott and Ed Fielding. They, of course, are also entitled to compensation for their legal expenses because their charges were dismissed. Ann Scott and Ed Fielding's charges had been pending for just short of 2 years. Their legal expenses were, I'm sure, considerable. They submitted their legal invoices. Again, Martin County took the unprecedented action to hire another attorney to audit these bills, legal bills that Ann Scott and Ed Fielding began paying to defend themselves against baseless claims beginning 3 years earlier. Ann Scott and Ed Fielding still have not received any reimbursements from Martin County. For nearly 1.5 years, some outside attorney has been analyzing these invoices to determine their reasonableness for 1.5 years. In direct response to these legal bills, Martin County is required to pay. Martin County's legal department in November of 2019 crafted new policy that limited the per hour reimbursable rate for attorneys to $275 an hour. 4 commissioners voted to approve this new rate cap. I strenuously objected. Ethics complaints were filed against Commissioner Hetherington in 2019. Presumably, she was aware of the reimbursement hourly cap because she voted to approve it. Commissioner Hetherington hired a lawyer to defend her. She prevailed. The Commission on Ethics dismissed the complaints against her on September 11th of 2020. Commissioner Hetherington then presented her invoice for legal representation to the county attorney's office, including $500 an hour fees, even though the policies approved by Commissioner Hetherington, less than a year earlier, were capped at $275. And my lawyer's fees of $400 per hour were deemed excessive. So Martin County is fabricating a very questionable policy that is entirely subjective, that if Martin County attorneys find that specialized skills are needed and that the case is sufficiently complex and maybe in some remote, unattainable location like Tallahassee, the Board of County Commissioners should authorize reimbursement at a higher rate. No cap is given. You can't do this. You can't defend an indefensible position. You can't enforce policy here and waive it there on a whim. At least you can't do it with public funds. You can't withhold money you owe Ann Scott and Ed Fielding, money that they have paid to their lawyers as long ago as 3 years. Furthermore, the longer you stiff Ann Scott and Ed Fielding, the more money they're going to be forced to continue to spend for more attorneys. You're adding substantially to the bill the taxpayers will have to pay. I agree that this policy is bad policy, but it's bad policy that our legal department crafted and that 4 commissioners approved 1 year ago. You can't refuse to pay 2 commissioners and waive policies for another. You can't spend tax dollars to audit 3 invoices of prevailing parties and rubber stamp and authorize another invoice. You can't withhold reimbursement punitively to 3 commissioners and reward another in less than 2 months.
Is that it?
It is.
Thank you. Commissioner Campy?
Thank you. I know that this is a challenging topic when it involves personalities that are sitting up here with us, my colleagues. I'd like to just break down some of what Commissioner Hurd had mentioned and just ask our county attorney for clarification on some of the things that we've heard. I agree with 90% of what Commissioner Hurd said. I think her recap of the history is not necessarily inappropriate. However, I think there are some very specific differences that need to be mentioned. At least that's how I'm looking at this. The concept of took unprecedented action, I don't know how many other commissioners prior to, and I'm trying to leave the individuals out of this and speak more generalized. I don't know in the history of Martin County how many other commissioners had been brought up on criminal charges. Those were not ethics violations. They were not initiated by the staff or political operatives or whatever the case may be. Those were charges brought that went to a grand jury and then were charged against sitting commissioners at the time. So when we hear about that we've taken an unprecedented step, I don't know in the past if there was a precedent. So anything would have been unprecedented because we were in an area that has not been pursued in the past. Commissioner Hurd, when there was a lot of commission meetings that had public comment about the reimbursing, and I think everyone understood, at least I'll speak for myself, I never disagreed that Commissioner Hurd, having been found innocent from a jury trial with the judge, was entitled to her reimbursement. It's not just a Martin County thing. It's a elected official issue across the United States of America, where how can regular people, if you will, serve in political positions with the possibility of being either brought up on ethical charges or through their conduct or work as an elected official could get into legal, either sued by the county, which is more the case, I think, going forward, where commissioners will either be brought up on ethical violations, be accused of them, or lawsuits. The criminality portion of it changes it a bit, and hopefully we'll never have to address this issue again. That would be my hope. However, I think that having participated in the reimbursement conversations with the Kibbe Wagner law firm, and correct me, Ms. Woods, if I'm wrong, some of the difference that was looked wasn't necessarily like a goodwill discount. It was based on some work that our attorney's office, our clerk of the court's office, who was operating as an outside party from the commission, noticed some billing discrepancies was more the issue than trying to punish. And this is how I am interpreting it, more of an issue. And that the Wagners, which are a local firm, which I appreciate Commissioner Hurd using a local firm. A lot of our other commissioners used, and they're entitled to any representation that they wanted, but if you're hiring someone from Miami or Tampa or elsewhere, those obviously, there's a lot of lawyer fees that would also elevate the number. So I believe that the Wagners agreed to that, and it wasn't under duress, so the number that they received was appropriate. Now, if we switch it to what we're discussing today in terms of Commissioner Hetherington's request of a reimbursement, I think there's a very obvious differentiation, and it's not about personalities, it's about the set of circumstances. Commissioner Hurd, Commissioner Fielding, and Commissioner Scott, those were them defending themselves from criminal accusations, and Commissioner Hurd's retelling of the story is accurate. She was found innocent, and the other two cases were dismissed. But those were hundreds of thousands of dollars over, as Commissioner Hurd said, over the course of many years, requiring tremendous amount of documentation to be reviewed, and that's large money for anybody. Commissioner Hetherington's situation is a much shorter time frame, and the number that she is requesting is how much, Mrs. Woods?
Just a little over $35,000.
$35,000. So I think, to me, the differentiation of allowing this to come quicker is the dollar amount there. And I think whatever we come up with today, I think we need to create a policy that takes the personalities out of it and set a limit that says if a dollar amount is under $50,000 in a reimbursement, because more likely the logical situation that would arise is ethical violation complaints. So if I would make a suggestion to my colleagues that if the reimbursement amount for legal fees in a situation where the commissioner was found not to be guilty of the accusations, that if it's 50 or below, there could be an expedited process that does not require an outside audit to go through all of the paperwork. And if it's more than $50,000, especially if you get into the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 range, that's an appropriate step. I didn't look at it as vindictive against Commissioner Hurd. I get that she takes it that way, but I personally wasn't looking at it that way. She is normally the first champion of protecting tax dollars. Well, having an outside auditor review those things, some of the issues that were involved in the only case that's come before us so far, which was Commissioner Hurd's reimbursement, were, very specific hourly rates on the invoices of specific employees of the firms, that there was some contradiction in what were their hourly rates going to be. So I think having gone through that, when Commissioner Hurd received her reimbursement check, or I guess it went to the firm or whoever it went to, she could have accepted that check knowing that everything was handled appropriately and the dollar amounts that she was given was appropriate. And as I remember, that was an agreement that her representation agreed to. I don't think that they felt that they were and I don't want to put words in their mouths, but they did come before the commission and say that they had agreed to that. I was there. In terms of Commissioner Scott, and Ms. Woods, I'd like you to correct me if I'm wrong, she did submit her request for reimbursement and then nearly simultaneously brought a suit against the county, never even giving the county even a short time span to review the documentation and offer up a reimbursement prior to her bringing her own legal challenge against the county. Commissioner Fielding, I'm not exactly sure what the delay is. I've never heard any mention from your office or anyone else about what Commissioner Fielding's issues were. So from my perspective, just to recap very briefly, if it's 50,000 or lower, it could be expedited, not have an outside situation. That's a reasonable amount, as long as the elected official was found not to be, those charges were not accurate. Anything 50,000 or above should have some level of review from an outside source. It takes the possibility of personalities and revenge or favoritism, if it's the opposite, out of the equation. Thank you.
Ms. Woods, you want to comment on all of that?
Couple of comments. Former Commissioner Fielding submitted his request for reimbursement in February of this year. That was the first time there was a request. We immediately referred it to the same attorney and that we had intended to do.
Can you give us the dollar amount?
Robert Morris. I'm sorry, he had two attorneys. I think it was between, I want to say his request is between $300,000 and $400,000, I believe. And former Commissioner Scott, again, hired a third law firm, contacted us in November of 2019, and gave us a lump sum billing. We immediately responded the day we got it and said, the county doesn't pay any lump sum. We required itemization just as the Kibbe Wagner firm provided to us. We were provided that itemized billing, and former Commissioner Scott filed the lawsuit before we advised her outside counsel what we were going to do. I don't have any control over the reimbursement of former Commissioner Scott's reimbursement because she chose to file it in a lawsuit, and it's been pending in circuit court. And because of COVID, a lot of it has sat dormant during that period of time. But again, TRICO provided outside counsel to defend that lawsuit, and as far as I know, it's proceeding through the court system, which is the venue she chose. Commissioner Fielding's is being reviewed by Bob Morris. I know he's been in contact with the parties, but again, it's an independent review. He's not communicating with me on the particulars of it. The only other thing I'd like to add, and I was not here at the initial referral, I was not the county attorney at the initial referral of Commissioner Hurd's reimbursement, but there is a detailed agenda item that sets forth the discrepancies that were identified in the Kibbe Wagner bill. And again, there was absolutely no hint of questioning over the hourly rate or, quite frankly, over the validity of the bill. It was a very, very large bill, very complicated. It's completely understandable if there were some issues here and there. The agenda item talks about those issues. Because it's taxpayer money, in an abundance of caution, it was referred to this, the clerk found a criminal lawyer, which the county attorney's office doesn't do criminal matters, for an independent review. My understanding is some of those discrepancies were located, and that my communications with the Kibbe Wagner firm was very amicable, and they completely had come to an agreement, independent of us, with Mr. Morris, who was hired by the clerk, and that matter was resolved amicably. That's why the settlement of the payment of the bill was placed on the consent agenda and handled, in a business-like fashion. The one thing I would add is the increase in the hourly rate and the additional language to your policy, I feel is warranted whenever you have a new policy, which, by the way, was recommended by the clerk and also Bob Morris, the reviewer of the previous bills. This policy, Commissioner Hetherington is the first one to come within the policy. We discovered pretty quickly that 275 was too low, and I have no shame in saying that. It was too low. We had hired some lawyers for some of our work, and we feel 350 is a reasonable fee. Again, what I want to emphasize so much is we're reimbursing people that were completely exonerated. So, you know, it's important that we recognize that and they be able to hire the attorneys they can. One thing that I saw in adding the additional language was that there are cases, particularly ones of ethics, that require specialized attorneys, and those attorneys do not come cheap. But to your point, Commissioner Campy, you all are elected officials, and you know you want to be able to defend yourselves against these complaints. And in this case, Commissioner Hetherington was completely exonerated. All the charges were dismissed by the Ethics Commission, and so she is entitled to reimbursement under Florida law.
Okay, Ms. Woods, also, do you care to weigh in on Ed's recommendation or suggestion, or do you want to just leave the proposed language as you have given us?
I think you know, that's fine. The only thing I would add to that, I think that's excellent if we want to set a cap. There may be situations, in this case, this is a good example, where I've been practicing law for 38 years. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in all things, but it was fairly easy for me to review a $35,000 bill that was tendered. It was done in tenths of an hour over a 3-month period. It was fairly easy to audit. I'm happy to do the $50,000 audit. I would at least ask you if we do, hopefully not, but if we have another request for reimbursement, because remember this also applies to former or existing employees for reimbursement if they are exonerated, I may be back with you to you know, ask for your direction on whether or not we need to do an independent audit. So
Okay,
that's fine. I
so-
could write that into the policy that we set a cap on the we set a
In-house review at 50,000, and that anything over would automatically go to a third-party review. I'm sure our clerk would probably agree. I don't think
Sure.
she'd have any issue with that.
I spoke with her about the idea of when we would do. I don't want to make this take longer than it. Sometimes it depends on the circumstances and what type of litigation it is. But again, I'm happy, in the interest of simplicity, to set that $50,000 cap that would, if it was over 50,
Okay.
it would go to the clerk.
So, Commissioners, unless there's any further comment, we need a motion to accept Ms. Wood's recommendation and the additional, if that's of interest, to include it in the motion, to include the additional $50,000 cap. But you also said something about employees as well.
It's currently in the, no, it's nothing new. It's in the current
Okay.
policy. So we're looking.
I need a motion and a second, and Stacy can't make it.
I'm sorry, I thought you.
No,
I forgot you were the
sorry.
chair, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sarah, you want to clarify the motion?
So first I need a motion to approve the board-directed policy amendments as submitted with the addition of a audit requirement if the bill is over $50,000.
Do you want to break up that motion, or you just want that all as one inclusive motion?
That can be one motion for the policy, to approve the policy as presented with the addition of the $50,000 audit. I need that one motion.
I'll make that motion. Did you get that, Mary Kay? Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Everybody clear what it is, what it entails? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 3-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting and Commissioner Hetherington abstaining.
The second motion I need is that the board authorize reimbursement at a higher hourly rate of $500 an hour, which takes into consideration the location, the complexity, and the type of case for Commissioner Hetherington's legal fees, and to approve payment of the legal fees related to the ethics complaint, which was dismissed against her.
Okay, everybody clear on that?
What was the grand total of that reimbursement?
35.
$35,583.
Okay, we need a motion for the second half of this.
Okay. I'll make a motion with the language that was, again, Mary Kay, did you get that? You do, okay.
She's good.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Essentially, it is to reimburse at the hourly rate of, what, 500, correct? And it was,
At a $500 rate, a portion of the bill, and to approve the complete payment of the bill for her legal fees. Yes, sir.
okay. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 3-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting and Commissioner Heatherington abstaining. And with that, I would yield back the gavel to the chair.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to be proceeding now to 5:05 public comment. I don't have any speaker forms.
Do you have anybody? Is there anybody? Nope.
Nobody on Zoom. And now we will go to commissioner comments.
So I normally don't text during the meeting, but I was waiting for this. My best friend, one of my best friends just passed away. It was a dear friend of Commissioner Hurd's and the county, Mr. Bob Critton. So,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Harold.
so that's it.
Nothing, thank you.
Our condolences. Commissioner?
Nope, I'm good.
I have a couple, well, I have a couple things that I forgot to mention this morning. Santa City Lights is an event that will be happening in Memorial Park December 12th through the 28th. It's sponsored by the Martin County Realtor Board. They will be installing and decorating trees throughout Memorial Park. So that will commence December 12th at 5 p.m. Tomorrow evening, Wednesday, starting at 4:30, we will be doing a mass distribution in Golden Gate community with our Neighborhood Advisory Council, as well as our CRA folks.
Mass distribution of what?
We're going to be distributing masks throughout the community as a community-wide education effort and event. And then finally, I'll just say that there is a provision in place to prevent frivolous and unfounded ethics complaints like the ones that were logged against me by Virginia Sherlock. It's designed to keep politics out of the process, because I know that there are many people that would not want to serve in this position if they felt like they would be intimidated and constantly subjected to some kind of financial hardship. We wouldn't have anybody that would want to serve in this. And I just wanted to say too that, you know, that it was not an easy process. It was a difficult year, and I don't wish that upon anyone. And I was really pleased when I saw the final report. It said, in the light of the respondents' considerable and repeated efforts to seek legal counsel and take substantial actions to comply with the code of ethics, that it was dismissed. So it was a difficult year, and I'm glad that there are provisions in place statewide to prevent, and so that we can get people that are willing to serve up here, because we need good people to be public servants. And with that, I hope everybody stays well and stays safe. Our next meetings are December 15th, our regular meeting, and January 5th and the 12th, our regular meetings. And we are adjourned.